Okay, you started getting closer to your higher self, especially since you booked a session with me, you said?
Yes. So, and then even prior to though, I've been I've been very, very spiritual. I want to say almost my whole entire life. I can remember I would have been about 4 years old because my father had built us a beautiful brand new home. And I had a gorgeous bedroom. And I just felt like a princess. It was the only time in my entire life I've ever felt special with my family. But that bedroom, my dad, I had this big closet, and then I had this little, like changing or what do you call it? Makeup, where you put
Oh,
makeup
like a
on, or a
vanity?
desk. Yes. And, and I had a big queen bed, but little did I know it was because my bedroom was used for visitors, but it still made me feel special. And all my other brothers, I come from a huge family. They all had to share bedrooms. I never had to share because I did
Ah,
have a sister. I come from a family of 8. I'm number 7,
ah.
and my sister is number 3. There's 15 years between us. My mother had 10 children, but only 8 living children. So in my family, there is the first 5 kids and us last 3 kids. And there was a gap between because my mother lost 2 children that I'm aware
Ah.
of. That I'm aware of. My family believed in, and I was raised with these beliefs of pretty much, you see no evil, you speak no evil, you hear no evil. So nothing was ever discussed. Feelings were never discussed. You weren't allowed to have feelings. My mom died when I was 11, and I did not know
So
what
she
sh
had all those kids and then went and died on everyone.
exactly. And it's like the first 5 kids had a totally different mother than what
Yeah.
us youngest 3 had. She was a completely different type of mother. First off, she was older. She was in her 40. She was 40 when just before yeah, she was 40 when she had me. So, I mean, there was just a lot of factors there. And my youngest brother was born a few years after me. He was born in, what year would he have born in? 67, 68.
Hmm.
He, that was the last child, but afterwards she had I think postpartum depression, and then went into menopause because she was 44 when she had Scott, my youngest brother, and she went into menopause. As she went through postpartum depression, she then went into menopause. She went into the hospital, mental hospital, twice when I was very young. I remember s- I remember seeing them taking her away on stretchers, and I remember having grandma coming and staying and taking care of us. And during that time, I would always feel like it was my fault because I was one I talked too much. I was always too much of everything. But
Mm.
we, I lived a relatively what I felt normal childhood up until, I mean, my mother was functioning, meaning was cooking, she was, cleaning, she was doing all of that up until we moved. And that I was about 9 years old when we moved into town. My parents got an offer on the house. My dad built my mom a wonderful offer, and we moved into town. We bought a bungalow. There was only us last 3 kids, and but that's when all hell broke loose in the family. Um, Dad didn't have the boys. He was self-employed, and he had a sawmill business. But once all the boys were raised and gone, he didn't have any employees. So he had to change professions, and he became a truck driver. And that was in the early 70s. And during the last year that we lived at the other house, the family was in an uproar. We went on a vacation and we got home, and my brother number 4 went off and eloped. And my mother was a bit of a control freak with her family, with her kids.
Mm.
She wasn't ready for her kids to be married off and to have to. She could control her kids. She couldn't control in-laws. And so she was having a difficult time, and that was the downfall of her spiral, because my 2 oldest siblings had to get married in 69 and in 70 because their girlfriends got pregnant, and my mom was not happy about that. My sister, the minute she became of age, she left and joined the service, because she was my mom's right hand, literally. My mom, when she was born, the doctor pulled her out of the birth canal by her arm. And I think basically what she had was a rotator cuff, but she was born in 1923. So I don't think they really knew about how to correct that
Your mom had a damaged rotator cuff?
from birth. Yes.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I thought you
Yeah.
said your sister.
No. And so she could only lift her arm up to her shoulder. So she always relied on my sister, to do anything when it came to getting dishes down, to, hanging up laundry outside on the clothesline, everything. And so when my sister left, that too spiraled her out. So she started drinking and she started hiding it. And she would hide it in coffee cups. And of course, I was very little. And I would call her out. I didn't realize that I was doing it, but I called her out on it all the time because she'd cover it up with a envelope. And when they say a Sagittarius is a truth seeker, I was a truth seeker even as a young child. Because if I heard my mom tell somebody that she was drinking coffee and I knew it was beer, I had to let everybody know. And my mother hated that about me. I mean, if she could have shoved a rag down my mouth when somebody walked in our door, she would have. But I'm still like that today. If I know you're over there talking and what you're saying is a lie, I have to call you out. I
Oh,
cannot stop it. Even if I don't know you, I will have the courage to call you out, whether I don't care if you were the president of the United States.
I need to hang out with you because I love that.
Well, what it has created in my life right now, hence one of the reasons why, I really felt drawn to this reading, is so much has fallen away in my life. And I know that happens. I know it does. And I know I'm
Yeah.
jumping forward, but I have cleared out people out of my life that I'm actually questioning if I should have. I mean, I know logically I should have, but my heart is saying, I don't know if you can take it.
Well, we'll get into that.
Yes.
We'll get into that. But
We'll
I can
get
see
into
there's
that.
some emotional charge to that.
There is. There's a lot of emotional charge to that. But
Yeah.
I've done that before. I have cut people out of my life, and I look at it now, and I'll tell you, I won't cry about it when I talk to you about it, but it's been done and I've processed it. So I don't remember having these types of emotions. But anyways, we'll get to that. So where were we? My mother and mom hating my.
Yeah, you go back to your because you were bringing me up from the time you were born. So this is perfect. Let's keep on track. So you called mom out when she was drinking.
Yes. Or anything, I can remember one time the police come to the door looking for one of my brothers. And my mom saying she didn't know where he was. I couldn't figure out why she'd say that. I'm like, what do you mean, Mom? He was just here this morning. I had no idea what I was doing. Oh my God. But
and the cops were like, oh, you can't do that.
Everybody ought to have a little sister like that. Oh God. But when my mom, her drinking got really bad. I mean, like I said, she drank out of her coffee cup. So I don't know. In the end, I know there was us last 3 children, a brother 3 years older and a brother 3 years younger. My mom went from taking care of our entire family to we weren't being taken care of at all. My dad was driving truck across country, so he would be gone a long time. And when he would come home, my mom would just totally flip out on him. Now, I never remember ever seeing or really hearing my parents argue. They always took it somewhere else, except for one time. And that was the time my mom picked up the tea kettle and she hit my dad in the head. And my dad never got rid of that tea kettle the rest of his life. He lived another 13 years afterwards. And every day that tea kettle sat on the stove and we used it every day with that dent. It must have been something that, I don't know. Somehow he just never wanted to replace it or get rid of it. I personally, that'd be the first thing I would have gotten rid of.
Yeah.
Now my dad wasn't
and
physical.
You saw that? You saw that happen?
I did. My dad was not physical with my mom, but my mom was physical with my dad. In that moment. What I do remember ever seeing with my mom and dad would be, and now as an adult, I often wonder if they were ever really arguing. Maybe they weren't arguing. It was completely the opposite. I remember her, because she was just a little gal, him carrying her off into the bedroom. So very well, they may not have been. I mean, after all, let's face it, the two of them, they loved each other. And, they had their children. When my mom died,
How did Mom die?
Well, Mom woke up and had a lot of pain. And she went into the hospital when we were in school, and she was in the hospital for a month. She went in the hospital just before Thanksgiving, and she died December 15th. She died 6 days before my birthday. In fact, I think we buried my mother on my birthday. But, prior to Mom's death, she really started doing a lot of irrational things. Things that I knew, even as a child, was not right. And I would get up early in the morning, and I would go and sit with her, and I would tell her that what she was doing was wrong. And I would actually tell her, because she quit disciplining us. We went wild. We were crazy. We were wild, disruptive children because she did not give us discipline. And I knew it was missing. And I can remember I was 10 years old, telling her, you're supposed to get after us. And she didn't. And that made me feel, very unloved, uncared for. Because the stories that all my siblings got to tell my mother, I never got to tell that story. She didn't feed us. She quit feeding us. She quit basically caring for us completely. She let me cut my hair with a pair of finger scissors. I mean, like when I say cut, I cut them up to here. I had thick hair. I looked ridiculous. My 6th grade picture looks so ridiculous, and I'm embarrassed to ever even. I don't even know. I do have a copy of it, but it shows, when you look at it, it shows the level of care that I was receiving.
Mm-hmm.
And, well, then, I mean, mom's behavior got really strange, where I knew that she wasn't right even in the head. Like, as a little kid, I told her this made up story that behind the garage, I pushed this secret button and this door opened. Well, she woke me up about a half hour after she put us all to bed to take me outside for me to show her where that button was. I can remember I walked outside and I looked at her straight in the eye, and I just thought to myself, and I said it out loud, how in the world could you actually believe that that was true?
Mm-hmm.
But it was just stuff like that. She wasn't there. And
Mm-hmm.
there was one other
You think
major,
she was just too intoxicated, or mental illness and intoxication?
I think both. Yeah.
Okay.
And then one other thing that really, I remember, impacted me with my mom while she was still alive was her and my father started going through a divorce. Well, actually, there's two things. Started going through a divorce because my dad just couldn't, I mean, he couldn't handle her. And one of the things was that, I don't know if it was common in the 70s, but like Child Protective Services, maybe, or
Mm-hmm.
an equivalent at the time. Maybe it was automatic because of the child support or something. They came out and inspected the house, or maybe there was
Mm-hmm.
a complaint. I don't know.
Uh-huh. Okay.
But my mom never cleaned the house. She never picked it up. She didn't do anything. And when I come home from school and I found that out, I was enraged because I knew that, we were going to get taken away because I knew she wasn't caring for us correctly. Because I did get that little tiny sliver of good mom. I got a few years. So somewhere in there, I knew what mom was supposed to be like. Now, the other thing that my mother did, she did it to all of us.
Did they take you guys away?
No, my mom died. My mom died.
Oh, shortly after that?
Yeah, it wasn't long, within months. One of the things she did that I know it impacted my brothers worse than it did me, I think. I don't know. Maybe it did impact me bad, but she told us that if Dad ever came to the house, that we were to hide if she wasn't there. Well, one
Okay, hold
time,
on. Mom told the kids to what?
to hide
Hide?
if Dad ever came. And so we were under a bed hiding because we were all
And
very
only
young.
if she wasn't home, right?
Right.
Okay, to
And
the
Dad
house.
found us and he asked us. And of course, who do you think told? Gola. Honestly, I have to laugh about it because I'm really no different today. But, you know, but it really, 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 really messed up my youngest brother. I mean, he stuttered for the rest of his life from then on. When my mom died, he couldn't even dress himself because she was like, as she was ignoring me, she was obsessed with him because he was the baby. So she dressed him. She did everything for him, everything. And then she died. I never got to go see her. I wasn't allowed to. I was 11. I was in 6th grade. I didn't like that. I didn't like the fact that they wouldn't let me, but I didn't have a choice in that matter. And then the day came. They came, got me out of school. But you know what? As terrible as this sounds, life got better. But, Dad, he was still, it was winter time when Mom died. It was in December. December 15th. My birthday's on the 21st. He had to go back to work. He was a truck driver. And, he had to make money. My dad was fairly young. He was in his 50s. And so he did. And he hired a woman, and her name, I'll never forget her name, Mrs. Papke. She moved in to take care of us. And the only thing I can say a lot about her, but this is the only time I'll spend on her. She was a person that quietly abused me. And she abused me by pinching me. And she'd pinch the backside of my arms. She never yelled. She never raised her voice. She was actually quite a lovely woman. And it wasn't until she was only with us for maybe, I say 3 months, but now that I think about it, January to March is not 3 months. So whatever that time frame was. But one night in March, I woke up in the middle of the night, and it was after my mother died, but my mother was there right in front of me. Well, not in the physical form. I guess I ended up taking over my mother's, we had a sunroom, and my dad put my bedroom in the sunroom so I could have a bedroom that was separate from my brother's. And so I woke up, and I had these beautiful French doors for bedroom doors. And on the other side of the doors was shears. But when I looked in that door, I was laying on my bed. I looked up and looked at that door. I saw the reflection of my mother. And she was in a long dress. And I sat up. And I'm like, I just can't believe that this is, Mom. And at some point in time, I walked out into the dining room. I was so scared. My knees were hitting. The next day, I had bruises on the inside of my thighs from where my knees hit. Anyways, I went in the bathroom, and I made myself look in the mirror, and I splashed cold water on my face. And I went and I sat on the edge of my bed, and I said out loud, I must have imagined that. And just as I said that, the lights in the living room, just the living room, flickered on and off. And I knew then that was confirmation. And I think she just came to check on me. But I went in because I needed comforting. I was scared. I was a little girl. I went in there, and
You went in where?
Into her room, the room that Mrs. Papke was staying in. And because Dad moved in with the boys, he was sleeping in with the boys' bedroom. And Mrs. Papke, she just completely dismissed me and just started just like pinching me just nonstop in the arms. Well, it was in that same time period. She must have been telling on the phone with somebody because Dad come home. Back then you didn't have cell phones, so she had no idea. And he overheard her speaking about us kids. And I'm quite certain it was about me, and my experience. And Dad kicked her out. He told her to leave. But from that point on, everything became my responsibility. I had to take over the cooking, the cleaning, the laundry, the grocery shopping, the everything. I basically became Mom. If the boys didn't behave, I'd tell Dad. He'd discipline them. And the crazy thing was, I never took advantage of that. I do let those two brothers know that once in a while. I could have really taken advantage of that.
And how old were you? You were still 11?
No, but yeah, I was 11. Yeah. I was 12 years old when I had to make my first holiday dinner. But I never begrudged it. I took on that role happily. I just figured every kid did what I did. I just didn't think anything was different. Because in my family, everybody had responsibilities, or at least they did prior to my mom, prior to us moving. Even when we were little kids, we had our own type of responsibilities. Every child in our family worked because we had a family business. So we had to do something. If you didn't work in the business, you worked in the home to help mom. And, and growing up, I had a relatively, I mean, I got no guidance from I had no female guidance in my life. I had nothing but brothers. My sister lived in another state, called, I don't know, maybe once a month. She had no interest. I went out there the summer after mom died. I went out there for 3 weeks, and she made me well aware that I was a burden in many ways. And it was just like, well, send me back home. I'll go home. But, she wouldn't do that.
Dad was trying to have her help a little bit, right?
Yeah. And she just, but she was not very helpful. I tried to have a close relationship with my sister. And I know if it wasn't me doing it, we would have never had it. But that's the case with most of my siblings. So now we're forward. I guess we'll just go forward to, I was 15 years old and I got pregnant. And I didn't have a choice. I wasn't given a choice. I was taken directly to the appointment.
Who took you, Dad?
Yep. Yep. My dad was a good man, but he came from a really bad childhood, and he was the one that instilled we don't talk about that stuff as much as my mom. So they were both, participants in that philosophy. He was a very strong-willed man, and I'm damn sure that his beliefs were instilled into me. My beliefs are his, because I've been dismantling a lot of those beliefs through, a lot of work. But I know I've got a lot more work to go. But it is a so we went there, we did that. Fast forward to I applied for a early graduation program. So in that application, my dad had to write a reason and everything, and he did willingly too. I was very surprised. But I was done with school in January. Well, ironically, in January
when you were 17 or what?
No, I was 18, so it'd have been January of 83. Or 80, yeah, January of 83. And I had a babysitting gig before, and I started cleaning houses. There was a lot of work in the early 80s. At that time, there was a recession. You can't get up there, Joe. This may be a problem tomorrow, huh? So I was cleaning houses. I got up at 4 a.m. and I babysat in the morning, every morning, 5 days a week. I cleaned 10 houses.
Hold on, I'm writing this down. At 4 a.m. And cleaned 10 houses. Okay.
Yep. Plus, I maintained our house, and I partied like a rock star. I was 18, out of school. I'm living a life. And then wham, my plan was to go into the military. So of course I visited the
recruiter.
Thank you. And I had been in there a time or two, and this was in March. I stopped in, and we were going through the questionnaire. I told him I was done with school. I didn't really care whether I participated in the graduation ceremony. But there was a bit of confusion as to whether or not I could join prior to graduation. So, because they never really had too much of the early graduation thing go on. So,
Yeah.
but he said, well, while you're here, let's go through this. So we were going through the questions, and one of them was, when was your last period? Because I was female. And that's what led me to like, oh my God, you're right. It's been a few months. So I went
Right.
straight to the health department and got the news I was pregnant. From there, I went straight to my grandmother's. I was a smoker. My whole family was huge smokers. Gave my grandmother my cigarettes, my cigarette pack. Never didn't tell her why. I just told her I was quitting, and I never smoked. I quit right then. Of course, I did not quit for the rest of my life because now I have COPD, and which is a hereditary thing in my family, which I'd be really interested to find out if it's just the cigarettes or if there's a lineage thing involved in that.
Okay, hold on,
God.
because it runs in your family?
Oh, yes, very, very much. I've lost 4 siblings.
How many?
4 of my siblings. And they've all had COPD or emphysema, same thing. My father
Right.
died from it. My mother, she died. She was 51 when my mom died. So, and my grandmother, bless her soul, who never smoked, but she was in her 80s when she got diagnosed with it. So, but just from being
She
around
had
second,
COPD?
yeah, no. But it was so yeah, so in the family. So I went to my grandmother, let her know I quit smoking. And it pretty much in my family, I just went off of what happened with the previous siblings. When you get pregnant, you get married. You take care of the problem. So I traipsed over to my son's father and said, I'm pregnant. We're getting married. And it happened. We were married in May. And it didn't last. He was so, so, so abusive. Oh my God. Terrible. So I gave birth to Josh. It wasn't 6 months later, I was pregnant again. And I had a miscarriage. And it was a Saturday night, rather. My son is just a baby. And I'm begging him to help me. And he throws me the telephone and tells me to call somebody who cares. And I think he said that before that slogan was even out.
Wow.
And who he ultimately met is his mother, because that was the only person that would. I don't even know how I ended up at the hospital that time. Every time I had to have surgery. So I had 2 miscarriages with him. He almost killed me probably 5 times. One time, while I was still pregnant, he killed one of my cats. And rather than burying it, because he had been drinking, and here I am pregnant, I've worked all week in a hot factory, spending my afternoon at a laundromat while he's out drinking, killing my cat. Rather than burying it, he uses the bucket that my dad brought over some tomatoes for me. And that's how I found the cat, because was going to give my dad back his bucket. Well, when he got home, after we got into a fight, and he grabbed me by my ponytail. I had long hair, and he dragged me across the front yard. I was like 6 months pregnant. And I'll tell you what, he came in the door later that night. He was so drunk, he couldn't even stand up, and he fell. I didn't even think twice. He broke the end table. I picked up that leg, and I beat his backside, meaning his butt, with that table leg. Next day he wakes up, I feel like I got ran over by a Mack truck. Well, I'm like, well, I don't know what would make you think that. Oh, Miss Innocent. Ah, jeez. Anyways, so that ended very quickly. I mean, he did terrible things. He threw a bowl
So
of
you were
chili.
6 months pregnant and you miscarried at that far?
No, Josh was 6 months. I apologize.
Oh,
He was
Josh
six
was
months.
6.
Yes. When he
Oh,
was 6 months, I got pregnant for the first time. No,
okay.
no, the longest my pregnancies lasted was I had one go to 18 weeks. And that was probably the hardest one because I was at a Mary Kay convention when I lost the baby.
Ah.
And it was like, what do you do? I mean, I didn't know what to do. I felt so bad. Nobody was around me or with me, or I didn't know what to do. I'm in a public bathroom. And it was the only
Mm,
time that my body could just actually dispelled the baby.
yeah.
And I just feel so bad. And I see on Facebook that they actually prosecuted or going to or trying to a woman who had the same thing happen. And I thought, I could feel her. I was there. You don't know
They
what
were
to,
going to prosecute her
yeah, that's this
for
current day. Yes.
for
They
having a miscarriage?
for flushing it down the toilet. But what do I was young when that happened. I was oh, maybe 26. So life lesson wise in that area, I had very little. But, I didn't know anything when it come to, I didn't have a woman to help me. And I didn't even know the level of pain that childbirth was. I had sister-in-laws and none of them would tell me. Their
Mm.
reasoning afterwards was they didn't want to scare me. So that's always been everybody's approach in life. Well, I'm the type of person, I don't care how bad it is. You tell me, I'll mentally prepare for it and I'll be good. So in no way have I ever had any support from any females like that from about that stuff. So I'm, I think in this life or this part of my life, people have a tendency to label me a teacher or because if I see a woman struggling over something, I'll stop and talk to her about it. But sometimes I don't always take note of whether or not she wants to hear it, you know. So we get rid of Mike, Josh's father, who never ever steps up to the plate to be a father, mind you. Now his mother, I really felt a connection to his mother. And his mother died like 4 years after Josh was born. Um, I definitely felt a connection with her. I was there when she died. Actually, I was at the hospital. I don't know why I felt that need to be there because Mike and I had been done for 3 years.
Mm.
But I really, Josh was it was her oldest grandchild. She was really, really nervous about leaving him. And I can tell you, he's had 9 lives, so she's done her role in taking care of him. Let me
Protecting
tell
him.
you, she's had more than her job. And I am a terrible swearer. I don't know why I swear so bad. Probably because I had the father who I had, but I'm really trying to hold it back in case you use this for future reference.
Well,
So if
I
I'm
was gonna say
offending
this might be
anyone,
really good. I was gonna say this might be really good to put online, but it all depends if you're open to that or not.
it doesn't matter
But
to me. It really doesn't.
but yeah, I can't put swear words out there because then they'll take my video down. So
Right,
I
right, right.
appreciate it because I
Yes.
cuss like a sailor too. So
Okay, good, good. Yeah, I catch myself sometimes like, dang, why do you do that? Um, so where are we at? Okay, so now I move
she
into
was nervous about leaving him. Josh has 9 lives. You said,
Yes.
yeah.
So then I go to husband number 2.
Okay.
We get married. I can't even tell you I've had a total of 12 miscarriages.
Ah,
And I want to say I've had 9 with Craig, but I'm not 100% sure. I don't
okay,
think
hold
so.
on.
So
Hold on.
anyways,
Hold on. I want to come up with a question. Do you want to know why?
why?
What
Yeah,
what was going on? Okay, hold
yeah,
on. Let me formulate the question then
sure.
while we're on it. Why did she have 12 miscarriages in her life? What was that tied to? Since I know nothing happened, everything happened. I'm sorry. Everything happens for a reason. What was the reason, or were they all different reasons? Let's ask that. Okay.
All right,
Okay,
perfect.
continue. Okay.
Um, so he too, was more involved in himself and his drinking. And, I look back now, he didn't drink a lot, but to me it was too much because I didn't
Mm,
want that in my child's life because look at my mom.
mm,
So I didn't drink. Once I found out I was pregnant,
mhm,
I like totally flipped roles. I no longer partied, never went out to a bar, didn't have alcohol in the house. I could tell you probably maybe once or twice a year I would have an alcoholic beverage. And it was always because of an event, never because I wanted one. Um, and that changed later in my late 30s, but then my son, he grew up to be a drunk, not a drunk, an alcoholic. His
well,
dad,
his father was, right?
absolutely. Oh, his dad is tremendously bad. Craig was
Well, hold on.
definitely, yep.
Let me ask you this about Josh's father. Did he, I know you said he was pretty absent, but did he see Josh at all? Did he have any kind of influence on Josh?
He had influence on Josh for the first 4 years because his mom was alive. So his mom took part, so he was taking part. But he could still go off and do his thing, and mom would take care of Josh and keep him safe. But afterwards, very, very, very little. In fact, my son I knew there'd be a day, and he went and to live with him, and it didn't last but a few days. And I don't know, his dad told him he was nothing more than a sperm donor. He paid $25 a week child support his whole entire.
That's how much my dad paid. That was like back then, you know what I mean? $100 a month. Crazy, right?
Crazy,
Crazy.
crazy.
Yeah.
But anyway, so Craig, he was just, I don't know, he was short Napoleon dude. But we had a connection, we had fun, but I didn't like the drinking. He drank a 6-pack every day, and we couldn't afford it. We really couldn't afford it. And I too was going through some emotional things as well. With all of those miscarriages, hormonal fluctuations, PMS. Oh my gosh. I mean, I really did. When it comes to hormones, my hormones were a wild whack job. I'm lucky I didn't become a chainsaw massacre.
Mm,
I mean, because I was just never in a solid state with my hormones. I was
mhm.
always going in one direction or another. And so Craig and I were together. We got married in 88, and I don't know, we divorced in 94,
And you
but
have how many kids together? Like, were there any
none.
living children?
No,
Oh,
no. My son is my only child. Yep. So we were gonna adopt. We were all the way to the adoption process of God. Doing what I call the final step for us.
mhm.
And I needed his signature. I had everything filled out, been to the attorney. I just needed Craig's final signature. He was the only one. There he is sitting talking on the phone with his dad. Mind you, we went out and we bought a house. We bought this huge farmhouse, 4 bedroom, huge, really designed to have 8 kids. I mean, it was huge. Loved it. Wanted all those kids too. That was my dream. But yeah, he
And he
just
wouldn't sign it?
he talked to his dad, and his dad's like, it'll never be a courier. That was his last name. I'm like, and he's like, what do you mean? It won't ever be my grandbaby. Won't have my blood in it. He got a phone, he looked at me and he's like, nope, not signing it.
Oh, wow.
So he followed his father. So we fast forward. Oh, and I mean, I can tell you some horror stories about some of the miscarriages. I mean, some I almost died because of neglect.
Mm.
And it's not only neglect from him. It was neglect from family as well. Like my one brother was with my husband at the time, out getting drunk, knowing that I'm at home, knowing my history, and not caring. And when I get to the hospital, they accidentally, I don't know, but somehow whatever medicine they gave me, I couldn't sign to have the surgery. And it was basically back in the day, they were called DNCs. I don't know what they're called now, but
Right. Yeah.
I couldn't sign for it because of some medication. They must have gave me pain meds. So I had to wait for their drunk behinds to get there to sign so I could go in. And I mean, excruciating pain, because a woman's body is not designed to go into labor at that age or at that stage. So your body's not prepared. So when that labor starts, it's like regular childbirth multiplied, because your cervix hasn't softened. Nothing's soft. Nothing's prepared and ready. But your body is determined it's going to leave. And you know and there was one time my son, he was young enough to where he knew numbers and colors, but he couldn't read words. And I was bleeding so much, and everybody that I knew, everyone, both sides of our family had weddings. And it seemed like I couldn't reach any of my friends. My one friend I could reach, she had 13 kids at her house. But she said, you can certainly bring your son here, Josh here, but I can't come get you. I can't come get him. Like, oh my God. I can't even remember how I got to the hospital. And yeah. Oh, so I wrote down my house number on a piece of paper with a pink crayon because the name of our road was Pinkerton. So it would
Wow.
remind him that it was Pinkerton, in case I passed out, because I was bleeding. I was hemorrhaging at that point in time.
Oh, wow.
I mean, I was seconds from calling the ambulance. I mean, I lost consciousness in the car. But anyway, so
Hold on.
moving on.
I want to make a question about healing from the trauma from all of that. So hold on, because the body keeps the score. Okay.
Yeah.
So is are any of her bodies, mental, emotional, or physical, holding any trauma, any pain, shock, or trauma from any or all the miscarriages? And if yes, are you able to gather up and remove all of that pain, shock, and trauma, send it up to Creator's light, and replace it with healing love and light from the Creator? And tell us what that looks like as you do it. How about that?
That sounds wonderful.
So when I say and tell us what that looks like as you do it, I just want you to use words to the
I
best
would
of your
hope so. Yes.
what you're seeing, feeling. You said you saw 9 of my videos on YouTube. You know what I mean.
Yes. And some of them did describe, and those that didn't, I got bored. I would
I
have a hard
know.
time and be like, come on, talk, talk. So if my higher self, I mean, I am such a talkative. I mean, I talk so much. What, but I'm telling you what, if she doesn't talk, I'm thinking we're connected to the wrong thing. You may want to double check that.
That's so funny.
My
I'll
luck,
be
it will
like,
be my
I'll be
luck. He'll
like,
take a previous life, and I'll be like a monk or someone who never spoke a word.
and then you had all these words stored up, so then you
Yeah.
came as you
Yes.
to get
So,
all the words out.
oh my God, hell's bells.
Yeah, I'll say it like this. I'll be like, yeah, you are not her higher self. So we need the real higher self to step forward.
Yes. And you can't even say the real Jill.
Right?
I've been trying to figure out a name or trying to feel as if do I feel like a I and you know what? That probably explains why when I've meditated in the past, I have never been able to see a face. And it was today. I don't know if this is coming from my higher self or from a spirit guide or affirmation or I'm just making it up, but they're energetics. They don't have the physical face like us. Maybe
Right.
that's why I'm not seeing it.
They can portray one if they want to you, just like when you leave your body. You can literally see, because I've had enough sessions to know this, you can literally see someone from another life and you were like so connected to them and it was your husband and it's your kids. But today you'd be like, who are they? Who are they? Like you wouldn't know them. But you will portray to them the face you had when you were in that life with them.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just an energetic like hologram that
Yeah.
you put in front of you
Well,
so
because when
that
I
they
do, I
recognize.
never see a face. Like I can't even tell you if it's a male or a female. So I was like, well, maybe it's because of that. Who knows? It doesn't matter. I sometimes overthink stuff. So
Hey, I have a
now,
fun question. Do you want to ask
yes.
this? I just thought of it. I've never asked this question before, and it just popped in my head for you. So I don't know. Let's see. What are some other names she has had as characters or personalities in other
Oh,
lives?
yes.
Wouldn't that be fun?
Yes, it would be. Oh, my cat is intensely staring right up and over here. I'm like,
Ah,
yeah, I've done a couple of those meditations. He's like gotten right up on. So it's like I know that he's sensing a lot.
what is your cat's name?
Joey.
Okay, let me make a question about Joey because we don't want issues with Joey tomorrow. So this
No.
is going to be the first question. Her cat Joey may become a little too active or involved in the energy of this session. So we are wondering if you could connect to Joey's higher self and ask his higher self to give him the equivalent of a really soothing chill pill
Yes.
to
And
keep him nice and calm during this session and let him know that Jill is totally fine and safe and he can just rest peacefully. Let's ask that.
yes. Phoebe will stay. She'll go nap. She may look on me, but he
Yeah.
he watches my energy. But I will put I've already determined I'll put a heating pad out for him. He loves that. That's like
Oh, nice.
his eyes roll back in his head. Um, so I'll make sure that's on for him and
Okay.
he'll go to it and should sleep, especially if you talk to his higher self. He'll take a
Yeah.
nice little
I've done
tilt-o.
that before, and
Yeah.
it's crazy how it works. It's
And
pretty
you know what's
amazing.
funny is I heard that had to be on one of them from it had to be on one of them on your on TikTok. You talking about that? Because I thought about Joey, but that's after hearing that, I heard that long before I booked. But when I was thinking about not before I booked, I was thinking about Joey, and I thought, you know what? She's already had to deal with that before. So
Yep.
yes. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her
So
cat was going crazy. Her cat was going crazy. And then we talked to its, I was like, why am I not talking to its higher self? Let me talk to its higher self. I had her higher self connect to his higher self. And then literally not even a second went by and it was total quiet. And
now
that
are
cat
their
had been
higher
going
selves the
crazy.
same as ours? I mean, like
Yeah, they're just
would
the same.
I
Yeah,
or would I
same.
be a cat or a bird or something?
Yep,
My
you
higher
can be
self
any
to
of
have
those
a
things.
okay.
Yep, you can be
All
any
right.
of those things.
Well, I hope I don't come back as a snake or a spider because I don't like either of those. And I would prefer if you just wake me up and we just forget this ever happened.
Right.
If that's possible.
Right, right. Let's make a request. Put in a special request.
No. Yeah. Gosh.
Okay,
I
so
really dislike
we were
frogs
talking
too.
about removing the shock, pain, and trauma from your body for the miscarriages. And you
Yes.
were telling me about that one where you were hemorrhaging
Yes.
in the car. Okay.
Yes. And so it required to, and what's the next morning before I could even get surgery? Before my
Uh,
husband showed up. And he showed up with my brother. And that made me even more mad.
because they were both drunk together.
Yeah. So, and my brothers were never caretakers of me. I did have one brother that my brother Wayne, and he was brother number or he was child number 4. He always had he had a good heart, a pure heart. Well, he always came from love, and I could always feel that with him. Um, I don't feel that with most of my other siblings. Now, my brother that is just a few years older than me and a few years younger than me, I do keep in contact with them. But I have another sibling. I discontinued contact with him. We'll eventually get to him, but he was the one that was with my husband number 2 at the hospital.
Okay.
But I eventually, if we fast forward through time, I cut ties with him
Okay. Well,
because it
yeah, it's
was,
okay to have
yeah,
boundaries, right?
yep, yep. So Craig, so I loved Craig, or I thought I loved Craig at the time, but I loved the lifestyles and where we were at. I really wanted to go more, had more towards family things, such as going to church and doing family value things, where he was more about, getting together with friends and having, some beers and playing cards. I'm like, well, that's all fine and dandy, but then you don't get up for church. But anyway, so I, after that last miscarriage, I packed my son up and I just kind of disappeared for a bit. And I did it to scare him. I think I really wanted somebody to come, oh, Jill, come back to me. And it didn't happen. He filed for divorce. Gulp. Wasn't part of my plan. So now I got divorce number 2. So now I'm out working like 20 jobs because I'm a single mom, and that's no lie. At one time I did have three what I would consider full-time jobs. I'm like, God.
Uh,
Um, so I ended up meeting husband number 3 at a place I worked at. And he was everything the other 2 weren't. He didn't drink, very soft spoken, you know. took care of himself, helped around the house, was clean, just everything. And so we moved in together. Him and Josh got along real good. His name is Don. He was very athletic. He liked to go skating. So him and Josh would do a lot of ice skating, play hockey, drop in hockey together. And then we got engaged. We got married. And before we
His
got
name was
married,
what? Doug?
Don.
Don.
Don. But before we got married, something had happened. I don't know. Maybe it was the way he was speaking to my son or something. And I was very adamant. It's like, listen, you can't do that. You can't. I've worked. He must have been 14 because I remember saying, I've worked for 14 years to bring him up so he knows he's loved. He has self confidence, all this stuff. Not for you to just go there and tear it down by saying all this terrible stuff. Well, believe it or not, a child got between us. Well, we went to counseling. I started going to counseling. And then the others joined in. And even the counselor told him, you're the adult. You don't, because he would complain about the stupidest stuff, like the fact that Josh never took care of his laundry. And my philosophy was, I have to pick my battles with him. He's 14. At this point in time, I could argue with him from the moment I wake up to the moment I go to bed because he irritates the crap out of me. He's a teenager, but that's what teenagers do. And I know that. He wasn't going to be a teenager for the rest of his life. But my philosophy was, you know what? If he wants to walk all the way through the house, walk all the way downstairs, all the way through the basement to the laundry room to get clean clothes, so be it. My only rule was no food in your bedroom. And you know what? He couldn't keep his room clean because he had ADHD. So I took out all toys out of his room. So all he had was his, he had toys elsewhere, but in his room was only his clothes and his stuff. It was still a mess, but that was his choice. Now he's as clean as I am. And I know that's how it works in life. You don't fuss. But anyway, so he wouldn't let it go. He would not let it go. Like he threw a freaking fit when Josh, and mind you, this was the 90s. I thought it looked good actually. He let one of the girls go in and bleach the tips of his hair because he had it spiked up. That boy spent more time in a bathroom than any daughter I would have had. And even to this day, he spends more time and money on himself than I have ever spent. But he's a whole other story. So, anyway, so I mean, I liked the counselor I had, and I followed what she said. You know what? Maybe you need to move out for a short period of time. Give those two a little bit of a wake up call. Maybe go book a hotel room for a week. Give yourself a break. You deserve it. I did that. Of course, they called and I told them and I set my boundaries. I did everything, did the tough love, did everything. The minute you two can work it all out, come back to me, share with me what you did. I was just very methodical about it and it never happened. They tried. I'd come back and it would last for 2 hours. I'd walk back out, come back and last for 5. And it was just so finally I went from the hotel and I ended up renting a real tiny little furnished studio for a month to figure out what I was going to do. And, everything turned to shit. It was 9/11. It really did go to shit. 9/11, I lost my job, got divorced. My son came back, he followed me.
How
And
old
I
was
guess I
he?
need to back up a little bit with when
How
I
old was Josh at this time? Like
Josh
18?
was 17. He was
Okay.
17. I need to back up a little bit though
Okay.
with Josh because him and husband number two were extremely close. Extremely
Mm.
close. And believe it or not, Craig actually saw him and interacted with him even after our divorce. A whole, I mean, tremendously on a schedule. In fact, he was even doing his baseball team and everything. Um, but then he moved out of state, and Josh was devastated, devastated. And then in that time, this is before the marriage to number three, my nephew, who is the son to my brother, the one that I have disassociated with, committed suicide.
Mm.
And Nikki was a a love, but can I pause? I need to do a bathroom break real quick.
Yeah, let's do them again. Okay. Let me see.
Where were we at? I think we were at where Dad and I were getting a divorce, right?
Yeah, give me 1 second here. Hold on.
Yeah.
Gotta get this document. Um, maybe my sessions are just really, I mean, everyone changes all the time, right? Including me, right?
Yes,
So yeah, those sessions,
absolutely.
I think the newest one on my YouTube channel. Okay, so today is April 17, 2025. I think the newest one out there might be like a year and a half or 2 years
Well, I was
old.
gonna say
And I
everything I
have,
saw was 2 years old or more. So
yeah,
yeah,
yeah, yeah.
yeah. And you're right.
So different.
Your YouTube channel. Well, YouTube portrays out differently now on the devices. So it was hard to find stuff on your YouTube channel that was very specific to this because I did like
I know that's why
seeing.
I sent you links. That's why
Yeah,
I sent you links.
yeah,
So because I know I was like that my stuff is buried. It's just there's so much out there. Yeah. So
yeah.
anyway, okay, getting back to your document. One of your nephews committed suicide during this time and blank. I don't have
Oh,
what's after that.
okay. So he committed suicide, and that was a very hard time. I was something I just really didn't understand, and it affected me on every level of myself. I called in and asked a minister. He was at one of the churches I used to go to. I went to that church before I got divorced. Once I was started going through that divorce, when I went to church, they made me feel ostracized. So I never went back again. But I did reach out to him when Nikki, because I needed some answers. Well, his answers were very unacceptable and basically told me that he was doomed to hell and, I should just pray for his soul and he'll burning for eternity. Well, that really dug hard for me with the with the religious groups itself. And so I found myself wanting to be in church, but kind of going more inward and doing it and then that is where I really started practicing some of the gifts that I have. And I don't know, they may not be gifts. Maybe they're just things because I practice. I've learned them. I used to always call them gifts, but now I kind of think we all have the abilities. I don't know as if I should even call them gifts anymore. But I did. So I kind of I don't know. I didn't know what to think about God and religion and unfortunately I had a hard time from that point guiding my son with God. And I mean I felt I did a very good job with him up to that. And I explained it death the best I could to him and he'd experienced enough of it by then. He too has experienced a lot of death. Um so that was difficult. That was really hard because Nikki was like a son to me. Nikki was at my house all the time. Nikki looked more like me than he he looked like his own parents. He would go out and people would call him my son because him and my son look
Mhm.
exactly alike. I mean, did anyways.
Mhm.
So, but it negatively impacted Josh. And all of this stuff moving forward, it'll all come together because, he's balled it all up and this is all my fault, you know? And
Josh said it was your fault that your
no,
nephew killed
no, it's
himself?
just that like he's got now as an adult, when he talks about his life as a child, first off, he tells me he doesn't remember any of it, and what he does remember is awful. Now, I don't remember him having an awful childhood. I mean, I remember creating some absolutely wonderful memories, and this kid doesn't even know them. And I know I probably shouldn't be offended by that, but damn, I put a lot of energy in him. I gave up and
Mm.
sacrificed so much. And now he tells me that, it was a terrible life. Well, you know what? He's 44, 42 years old. If you don't like your life, change it. It's time you quit blaming. I quit blaming my parents in my very early 20s when I think most people quit blaming their parents for stuff. I was probably much younger
Yeah.
than that. I continued to blame my mom into my 20s for
Mhm.
dying. I kind of attached suicide to my mom because I felt like, well, she did in a sense. She knew what she was doing. She killed her body. She was taking uppers from what my mother was seeing different doctors and going to different pharmacies. And in that time period in the 70s, she got away with it. And doctors didn't know she was getting prescribed uppers when they were prescribing the downers. So my mother
Mm.
was basically a drug addict. Did you ask me what she
Mm.
died from? I don't think I ever did tell you.
Mm.
So she ultimately had, of course, cardiac congestive heart failure is what ended up taking her. But what she ended up having is she ended up getting pancreatitis from the excessive drinking and all the medication she was taking. So that then inflamed and became very acute. And then it came to the point that it just quit working and functioning any longer.
Give me 2 seconds. I can hear you, but my
Yep.
cat is going crazy trying to get out of the door. Cat issues today. Sorry.
That's okay. Hey, I resolved mine. I got mine their treats and they went off. Actually, they started fighting in front of me, and I'm like, oh, great. I woke up this morning with this red spot on my face, and then I remembered they got into a fight and used my face as a kickoff. It's terrible.
Oh my gosh.
Oh, actually, I
Okay, so
would.
that's basically how mom died, and now your
Yes,
son, and he's an alcoholic, you said, right?
yes, yes. He's recovering. He no longer drinks. But that's another part of the story. We don't want to get into him that too early.
Okay.
But
Okay.
so now Don and I are, so now we go back forward to Don and I. We
Okay.
never had any children or tried. He got a vasectomy. Um, but things came to it and we got divorced. I couldn't. He never, the crazy thing was he disrespected me by disrespecting Josh. And what happened was every single day I came home from work, I would be met at the door by one of them or both of them. And they would just be tattling on the other. And that's exactly what it was. And if I sided with one, the other would, I mean, there was nothing good to do. I was in a no, I was in a no-win situation. And that's hence the reason why the counselor suggested the other, because she really thought that would push Don out of Don never had any children. So she felt that she used the word immature when it came to the children because he was childless himself. It caused that sense of immaturity, a level of immaturity I didn't see in any other part of his life. He was the most responsible person I knew. It would give me freaking anxiety. Every Thursday night, he brought out his little case. And it was to sit down and pay the bills. And I had to sit down. You know what? There's another subject I want to talk about that I absolutely forgot. I must talk about is money. My relationship with money. Because, that always gave me so much anxiety when he did that. We had plenty of money to pay our bills, but it was just in doing that. And then in going forward in my life, when I was making great money and never had to worry about money, I would still get anxiety about paying my bills. And there was times my bills would be late for no reason other than my laziness, which was caused by my anxiety, which has some form of attachment. Because in today's life, you know, with society in over the course of the last 5 years, I'm on disability now. I had to go on disability because of my rheumatoid arthritis and then my COPD, and I have Crohn's as well. Just throw that one into the mix. So there's definitely something there with the the rheumatoid arthritis knocked me out of it changed my life, changed my world. Because
When did you get diagnosed with that?
Well, the first time I experienced it, I was 40, in my 40s, but they were able to put me in remission. Much different experience I had with it. It was so debilitating then, though. But thankfully, I was working with it at AT&T, and my manager worked well with me. He knew I was a hard worker and I wasn't lying. And he just said, you get into the office when you can. Sometimes it would be 10 or 11 in the morning before I could actually put weight on my feet. I would have to crawl to the bathroom. Well, anyways, fast forward to 2017, I twisted my ankle and it all came back. That injury. And
in what year? In 1978?
No, 2017.
Oh, 2017. She twisted
my ankle, and then the rheumatoid arthritis kicked in, and it first it stayed relatively in my hands and in my wrists, but then it started moving. And at the time I was still working, but that sucks the life out of you. It's just an undescribable autoimmune disease, especially one like that causes such chronic pain. It sucked the life out of me. I mean, I didn't have the capability to compute mentally any longer. I was in sales, and it was a very, I was in business to business sales. So, you had to be on your toes, you had to be on your feet, you always had to be hunting, and I was always so good at it. I was a manager at times. I took a step back and became back to the salesperson, so I had less responsibility. I could control my world a whole lot more. But I couldn't do it. I couldn't do it anymore. I got
And
fired.
what is the story behind the arthritis? What message was her body trying to tell her?
Can I tell you what I think it is?
What?
I hope this won't influence. If I tell you something, it won't influence my
No,
higher
if you
self,
think
will
it
it?
is, it might be your higher self. You already know you are your higher self, just FYI, but you probably already
Well,
know.
I do know that. I think it was to force me to slow down so I could see my gifts. Because I was the type of person, I was high energy. I went from the time I got up till I went to bed. And, I was just one of those people, I was on this committee and that committee. And, you never got home from work at 5:30. It was always 7, 8, 9 o'clock at night before you got home because you had stuff to do even after work. But so yeah, so no, there's definitely a link with money as well as with these illnesses. And I do see, I don't know, I wonder. I know you have that question. I believe we did write that question about the arthritis and Joey, if Joey's taken on that arthritis. Did we ask that?
No, I didn't know Joey had. Did
Yeah,
you tell me Joey had arthritis?
yeah, he just got arthritis in his backside. It's really bad. I gotta lift him and stuff. And I follow this gal on
Oh, your
TikTok.
cat. I'm thinking your
Yes.
son. That's
No,
Josh.
no,
Okay,
no.
never
Yeah.
mind.
That's okay. So anyways, yes. So let's get back on track so I don't, because I still have a little bit of trauma in here.
Okay, hold on. Anything to do with her? Arthritis. Arthritis. Is he trying to take some on to help her out? And if yes, what can his higher self do now to free him of the responsibility for carrying her issues, her condition, and bring healing to him? How about that?
Yes, perfect.
Go with your cat. Okay, I want to
Yes.
say, is there a link between the arthritis and money? Or why does she have so much anxiety around money? Okay, got it. Okay.
All right. So Don and I end up getting divorced. Josh, I get Josh out of the house there. He was living there. He wanted to finish out school. I gave him the choice. And he wanted to finish out school because it was almost over. So I let him finish the year staying there at the house. Dad agreed to it. Just so in case I don't tell you again, he throws that in my face that I left him there. I love how he forgets what,
Ah,
yeah. That's how he remembers it. But so we get divorced, bring Josh in with me. I hook up with a bad guy. Should never have hooked somebody who needs a mother. Oh my God. That ended real quick. Um, I did end up losing a job. I think we already talked about losing that job though. At the same time, I got divorced, 9/11. There's just a lot of stuff happened then.
so was it the 9/11 that caused the job loss?
No, it wasn't. It wasn't. It was my inability to stay focused on my job because I was going through everything with Don and Josh every single day. It was just, you know, I I was still trying to come to terms with, losing both my parents at a young age, being married 3 times in my 30s, not only having one child, he was getting older. It was just a lot of stuff I felt was happening. And where was I at in my life? I wanted, I got out of the shop. I did get into the office. I did go to college for a period of time. Um, Back in the 80s, like 88, 89, 90. I didn't get a degree, but I did go. And which helped me get my job that I ended up getting that took me out of the shop work and um into that. And that's where I went to work for an insurance company. I learned I was really, really, really good at sales. Well, I mean, like really good. I had a special knack for it. And it's funny how the world has always put me in the right spot at the right time. And I could give you example after example after example when I look back onto life like that. And especially when it comes to work. Because I went to my boss at the insurance company. You know, I I'd maxed out pretty much where I was at, and I needed a new challenge. So I went to him with the offer to him make me an agent. And, but he denied it. He said no, and I kind of had to eat crow and leave. And ended up taking a job that a friend worked at just to get the job, making less money what I was making before. But that led me that decision to do all that is what led me and got me my job at AT&T down the road.
Mm.
And it's just like, had I not ever done that or made that decision, um, it was like how I got my job at AT&T. I just signed up for college again for a second time, like 15 years later. And walking in, I think it was fourth day of class. Yeah. And my counselor, who I just met with, to go overview like what I was looking for in professional life. She goes, "Okay, Jill, come over here." She says, "This guy here's from AT&T. He's from the phone side, but he said they're hiring over on this side, and blah blah blah." He gave me all this information. I can remember thinking to myself, "Oh, I probably won't. I don't know." But the next day, I picked up that piece of paper and I said, "You have to do this." And I
Ah.
just knew it would be, monumental and change. And it was. Getting that job took me out of being a country bumpkin and put me into, I always had a dream. I grew up was born in the 60s and grew up in the 70s. So that show, That Girl, with Marlo Thomas, when she threw her hat up in the air, and I wanted to be her. That's who I wanted to be. And I got as close as I got to it that, I was doing similar things, but only it was in the suburbs of Detroit because, Detroit's not a safe place. But and I did. I had the best life during that. I mean, that was a very
Mm.
good growth period for me in so many aspects. I met a man who taught me the word narcissist for the first time in my life.
Oh, you got one of those too. Oh, you're so special.
I don't know about that. He sucked the life out of me. I've never had
I
another.
know, don't they?
Yeah, I met him when I was 40. How old would I have been? What year was it? Would have been, I think it was '06, so I'd have been 42. I've never had another relationship since him. He truly, truly ruined me. He definitely did. I didn't know what a narcissist, I'd never even heard the term. I don't even know where I heard it. I think one of my friends I was complaining to, and I never complained about him because nobody ever saw that side of him. Then again, he never wanted to ever see or be around any of my friends. And if he did, he'd always have very negative, bad things to say about them behind their back. I didn't want to. But, anyways, he was, I don't know. There, what's funny about that narcissist with them is part of what I say is going to sound like I love the hell out of them. And the other half, I'm going to sound like I hate them, like I'm ready to kill them. We loved hard, but he knew how far he could push me. And he would push me to that border. And then he'd be nice and he'd flower me with gifts and with love. Oh my God, the gifts, the gifts. Oh my God, the gifts. I still have some of those gifts. I'm not kidding you. I try to get rid of every once in a while. I'll see something and go, damn, he got that for me. I mean, it was everything he did was in excess. Everything was it, that was something in his personality. And he knew it too. I mean, that's the first thing I saw about him, and that's the first thing I told him. You have an excessive personality. But
Mm.
anyways, thank God I got out of that relationship before he killed me.
Mm.
Anyone who
How long were you with
knows,
him?
7 years. Ironically, the number 7 is everywhere in with relationships. And I'm a number 7 child. I wonder if that has anything to do links, but that's more of a fun question. We want healing.
Mm.
But I can remember, and he did almost kill me multiple times. I
Mm.
mean, I don't want to spend too much time on that part of him, but he smashed my head, cut my head open. Just how he did. But the part of it is that Jill should have never stood for that. He almost let a man rape me, and I almost killed that man. And he knew I had a knife in my room for protection because he bought it for me. And he knew that would just be a very instinctive thing for me to do.
You were
I
being set
almost,
up.
well, I
Almost
feel,
like energetically, it feels like you were kind of being set
yes,
up.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, yes, yes.
Mhm.
Absolutely. I've always felt that. And I'm feeling that a lot lately too. So that's why I want to get through a little bit of this stage of my life, because
Mm.
my current stage, either that or forces are at work and I just need to
Mhm.
flow with it. But
Yeah.
um definitely, I think that Scott Carey, his name is Scott. I have a brother named Scott as well. So hopefully we don't confuse. My youngest brother is Scott. So I'll try to refer to him as youngest brother. Um, I think Scott had some dark entity in him because
Yes.
he uh he ended up committing suicide. They say there was also a woman there, but she, after a year, she was cleared. I don't know if we could find out if he did die of suicide, but I think there is an energetic, I think we had a past life together. And that was some karma clearing with Scott and I, because that relationship was just, it was crazy. We loved hard, but man, we fought hard. I've never loved anyone as much as I've loved him. But then again, I think that anyone who, I hear that from others who talk about relationships with narcissists. So I think that's just a common trait, because they love
Yeah.
bomb the hell out of you.
Oh, they do.
And that's
Yep.
what my soul needed, right? My
Uh,
soul has always wanted to be love bombed. I mean, I never even had a birthday party my whole life. I mean, not one time could anybody ever bake a cake for me. I don't ever remember blowing candles out on a cake. Oh my God, did we miss a big one? Holy smokes. That's why we're coming around to birthday cakes. My 13th birthday. My my dad met a woman. Oh yeah, this is like, she's more major than my mom. Her name was Betty. Betty was very, very jealous of me. And Betty just recently passed. She lived a long, long, long life. Um, but she's put knife to my throat. This is when I was a child. She her and my dad started dating. She moved in a couple times. And both times she moved out. The one time I said to my dad, "It's either her or me. I mean, I'll move somewhere, but who's going to do his laundry then?"
right.
No. But I mean, I'm sure my dad maybe thought of that, but that wasn't the reason. But she there was a lot of physical fighting with her. She was very mean.
With
She,
you and her or dad and her?
oh, no, me and her. She
Oh,
was physically abusive. And I was at a teenage age too, where I would just, hey, I learned how to fight from my brother. So it was like I'd put up my fist and we would go at it. And she would have been in her 50s. I mean, to kind of give you perspective, maybe like 51, 50 at the time. I don't know. Yeah, I think she was 49 when she met my dad. So by then, when she was fighting with me, she was right around that age, too old to be doing
Yeah.
something like that and acting like that,
Yeah.
saying terrible things to me. I mean, she told me I had terrible teeth and, oh, just terrible things, and demeaned me every opportunity she got. Anytime my father wasn't around, she had something bad to say to me. She was infamous for at a family gathering. This is what she'd do to embarrass me at a family gathering. Oh my God, look at your teeth, Jill. When was the last time you brushed those things? Now you tell me how a 12, 13-year-old girl's going to feel. You know, you could say you brushed them 2 hours before. Nobody's going to believe you, at least not in my family. She was a drinker. She was a mean, mean drinker. My dad was not a big drinker. He loved to dance. Those two could dance. People used to, he, apparently, he had like certain country bands that he would go and follow. There would be people that would come just to watch my father and Betty dance. They were like Fred Astaire on the dance floor. He was just, I remember watching him, and he was just wonderful, wonderful. But she was just an awful, awful thing. I mean, it even came to as adult. I am now an adult. I'm still married to my first husband. Oh, my brother just turned 30. So I was 19 years old because there's 10 years between us, 10 years and 2 weeks. So I was 19 years old, 2 weeks from being 20. And my sister-in-law threw him a surprise birthday party. And at that party, it was at a bar. Of course, I couldn't drink. And somebody wanted me to give one of my brother's friends a ride home because he'd had too much to drink. And this was at the beginning of the night. And I wasn't comfortable doing it. So I went over to my dad and asked him if he would help me. I said, I'll drive your car. You drive this guy's car. And so we did. We get back to the bar and I go to the bathroom and Betty meets me in the bathroom and is like screaming at me, telling me she's sick and tired of me taking my father away from her, blah, blah, blah. And I can remember I just turned around, I locked that bathroom door, and I said, you know what, Betty? It's time we get this done and over with. Because the last time we fought, she beat me so bad. I was 17 years old, and it was in the middle of the summer. She didn't know I was home, and she came in and she just punched my dad right in the chest, took him down. He had emphysema. He couldn't, he was not going to gain his breath back. Well, I come flying out. I had French doors, so I saw it all happen. And I come flying out. Her and I went through every single room in the house, broke off a bathroom sink. I mean, broke furniture. We were in every single room of the house, just tossing and turning. And at that point in time, I was a physical match for her. She couldn't beat me, but I couldn't beat her. And it finally got to the point I was running out of, I mean, I was surprised she could do it. But
Yeah.
she was drunk. So she had that on her side. I went running for the phone and I got the phone. I started dialing. She got the cord. She just sat there and beat me with that phone. And I just covered
Ah.
myself. And my dad, he isn't able to help me because he's still trying to recover. And what typically would happen is we'd call one of my brothers, which is what I was trying to do. And so I'm in the corner and I'm just trying to protect my face and my ears and she's just, I can remember taking a mirror and looking at myself and I couldn't believe what I saw.
Oh my gosh.
But So my brother, he ended up, well, what ended up happening afterwards is I ended up getting her, and I got her hand behind her back, and her hair, and her other, I had her by the hair of the head. And she's like, Fred, Fred, I'm so sorry. Tell her to let me go. Oh, she did the puppy dog. And my dad gave me his voice that told me that I needed to let go. And I waited till I got that voice. And as soon as she did, as soon as I let go, she come across, she wiped my face right out, broke my glasses, broke my nose, my face, my everything. And I ended up having to work with her the first 7 years of my adult life. And she was as bad as that to work next to. Even being with my father, she would create terrible rumors that I was sleeping with other men who were married, who were my friend. Their wives were my friends. They were just all lies. She was hateful, hateful. She's one of those women that you wonder if maybe just because she went through menopause, she become a bad woman.
No, she was a narcissist.
Well, you know,
And
I
she had an
never
evil
thought of
entity. She had
that.
an evil entity. Yeah, she
I
was a narcissist and had an evil entity.
well, I really, I do believe that. We ended up making up. Well, I can't remember what year, but it was like in the 90s. She at one of the my nephew's graduations, she came. My dad was gone. She'd remarried. Actually, my family, we all loved her new husband. And so he kind of came into the fold. But she eventually apologized to me. And and I did accept her apology. But I would never forget it because of what it did to me. Okay, so now
Hold
moving
on, hold on,
back.
hold on, hold on, hold on, hold on. Um, I'm thinking that your body on some level has some trauma saved up in your cells or something
Oh, yes.
from all of that physical. Okay, so we need to make a question about that. So, she has experienced physical abuse from your mother too, right? Remember, right?
Well, my mother never physically. No,
Not physically.
it was the babysitter, Mrs. Papke.
Oh yeah, okay, yeah. From Mrs. Whatever, from the babysitter and Betty, and which which husband was it? Or was it the
All,
boyfriend?
all of them abused me.
And from all of her husbands and her narcissistic boyfriend. And we are wondering if she is holding on to any of the pain, shock, and trauma from any of those incidents. And if she is, can you gather that all up now, send it to Creator's Light, and replace it with Creator's definition of peace and love, and fill all of her cells overflowing with unconditional love and peace, and tell us what that looks like as you do it. How's that?
That's perfect. Yeah, I can't believe I almost forgot about her. Oh,
Yeah, that was a big one.
she
Wow,
was
what a
really big.
crazy one.
Yeah, I spent way too much time on mom. That was like, wow. Because whatever mom's issues were, they were like way before me. They didn't have anything to do with me. I mean, it's taken me what, 60 years? No, it took me about 40 years to figure out that, you know, that was all based on her. But that doesn't minimize what happened to me and my reaction and how that affects me in my life. Now, ironically, through my entire life, my disposition was I still am one of the most optimistic people there are.
Mm.
I mean, that's how I've gotten through life is knowing. I mean, gosh, I'll get off track a little bit, but you know, I used to live by the secret. I could go out and give, this is just crazy. I could go out and, not that anybody would ever come, but give seminars on the secret and how it could benefit them and how it benefited my life. I mean, I used that and it propelled me into a six-figure income when everybody was still making 50,000 a year. You know, when 50,000 was a good job and good income and a solid one, you know, it took, I mean, I always wanted just a little bit more and I knew I could do more. But now that I
Mm.
can't do that stuff anymore, I feel like I missed out. I missed something, you know? But
What do you
I
mean? What, explain that. What do you mean you missed something?
like I missed a stage of my, you know, I missed a stage of doing something that I should have been doing. I don't know.
Okay, hold on. I want to explore that because this is like related to a session I just finished right before you. And there was a
Okay.
lot in
Around
that
there.
without explaining, like
Yep.
going into so much detail. It was incredible, like incredible session. But okay, I want to explore that a little bit because you feel like you should have done something more, but you somehow, quote unquote, missed it.
Yes.
Okay, let
And
me
the
make that
missing
question.
of it has been more from my body, you know, because of my rheumatoid arthritis and because of my COPD and my Crohn's. It's limited me so much.
Okay,
In my
hold on. Let me
50s, you know, in a time that, I mean, that's when most people are really putting into their retirements and everything else. I mean, I, you know, Jesus. And I'm not one to believe that choices are bad either. But I do question my choices. But I'm certain that my higher self is going to tell us that every person I've ever been with, every place I've ever been, every job I've ever held, I was supposed to.
Mhm.
I don't think it's going to tell me anything different than that. So I don't even know if I want to
Right.
waste time in asking that question
Right. Well, I wrote
because,
this. She has health issues in her 50s and feels like she missed doing something she was supposed to do or accomplish in this life. What do you have to say about this? Is that true?
okay,
So hold on to this. Hold on. Let me ask this. I just thought of an interesting question you might really like. Is there another timeline where she did not experience these health issues?
oh,
And can you tap into the events on that timeline in that parallel reality and tell her what she did do in that life that she was unable to do in this one because of her health issues? How
I
about that?
like that. Yes.
Good thing?
Yes. And you know, I watched something just recently about the parallel lives. I believe it was something that you, or maybe it was one of the sessions, who knows? But
Yeah.
it's, yes. And I believe that person it had to be one of your sessions because I remember seeing the
Yes.
person.
I remember there was, yeah, one of them out there talked about parallel lives.
Yes. And I think she said that she had three other lives. But none of them were on. Yeah. That part I didn't quite understand. And I just figured, well, I just don't need to know about that yet. If it's meant for me, it'll come to me and I'll.
Well, just think of it like this. Everything that can exist does exist.
Yeah.
Every possibility that could exist does exist. And it's out there,
Right. And
right?
that's exciting. It's exciting.
Yeah.
Um, so where are we off at? So where did I leave off in my life?
So you're
I
one of the
go
most
to work at
optimistic people.
AT&T. Yes, it's
Okay.
Scott. So Scott and I had a lot of ups and downs. And finally, I even remember, I mean, I had lots of times when I said I should leave, I should go. And I did leave. We broke up many, many times. We
Okay.
became the joke of those that knew us. You're always broke up, you know, was never a. So, anyways, we I can remember we were out playing pool at a bar that we frequented. It was at a lake. We loved it because we could look out onto the lake. And there was definitely spirit guide or higher self. I think it was a higher self, but spoke directly to me and said, "It is time for you to go. What are you holding on to?" And right then, the feeling, and I can almost feel it in my stomach right now, that same feeling of it's got, this time it's just got to happen.
Mm.
And he was one of the first people that I disconnected with. And we we never saw each other. Well, we did one other time, and that became a shit show, and I got to see who he really was, still the same exact person. This time he ended up in jail on his own accord too. But that's
Mm.
there is another person in my life I didn't bring up that I need to, because she was an integral part. Her name was Sandy. She was a very good friend of mine through school. And her mother died just days. Her mom and my mom died days apart from each other in the same month. My mom before Christmas, her mom right after Christmas, still in December. We never really talked about it a whole lot, but we became fat friends, and we're friends all through life. And even when times had stopped, we'd get together and, you know. So through that life, she had several husbands and what have you. And um, I actually helped her get a few jobs, places I worked or had connections to. And I got her into AT&T. And she was at AT&T, and then she decided to leave. Well, the department I was in, once you left, you could never, ever, 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 ever come back. It was not allowed. Well, I'm going to make this a really, really short story. She called me up one day and said all this stuff was happening to her, abuse. I mean, you name it, all these terrible things. She asked me for money. I had money. She was my friend. I gave it to her with the understanding that she was going to pay it back, of course. Um, Talked her through how to get back up here. I got her job back. I went to the vice president and got her job, and actually a better job than what she had before, with the understanding that if something bad happened, that was an X on my back. And before
Oh,
she
okay.
even moved, I let her know that. Oh, absolutely, absolutely. But best friends for life. She was one of the few people I always felt up to that point in time that would always tell me the truth and tell me what I needed to hear. All right. So over the holidays, our department's always shut down for between Christmas and New Year. So I always took an extended vacation and went away. So I was gone while I started getting these phone calls, and I never answer my phone when I'm on vacation for work. Well,
Mm-hmm.
as it turned out, she'd never called in or even showed up to work. So she was going to be a no call, no show 3 times, and she was out. Anyways, long story, she ended up quitting. When I got back from Florida, I maybe left out that I moved her into my place.
Mm.
She proceeded to have taken half of my house, um, my identity.
Oh my gosh.
Then I find out that everything, everything she's ever, 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 ever told me in her entire life has been a lie. I mean, I'm
Another
talking,
narcissist.
I'm
Narcissist.
talking an extreme lies. Like she told me that her mother drank Drano to kill herself. And it ate a hole in her stomach, and their father forced her and her sister, because I was best friends with her sister too, they're only a year apart, forced her and her sister to watch her mother die. I mean, that was all a lie. I mean, I found out as an adult all these years. I thought that to be the truth. I thought Pops was that bad of a man all those years. And here it was, he had this, and I never even thought about her being a narcissist, but absolutely. She is absolutely either that or I thought she was psychotic. But yes, yes. And then when I moved her up, I thought she was having acne problems. Come to find out, she was hooked on drugs in my own house. So, yeah, I had that nice thing come home to her. And anyways, and I say this because I know I'm going to run into her. I moved back here to my hometown back in 2017. She lives out in Florida. I know she's been around here on visits. In fact, I just missed her. I know one of these times I'm going to run into her. I don't know what I'm going to do if I do. Because
Mm,
she owes me in my tally that I last had, it was over $12,000. And boy, could I use
mm,
that right now.
mhm.
You know, I
Well,
could use
hold on. We're gonna. She may not owe you.
oh, geez, yeah.
About
Hey,
that? You think about
yeah.
that?
Yeah, no, not until you just said it. Yeah.
She may not.
So, yeah.
We don't
So
know.
let's find out because
You may
we,
have owed her and she collected.
her and I, let me tell you this, through the years, her and I have went to so many psychics together. I mean, even in our younger years, when, there was you didn't have social media. So to find them wasn't always
Right.
an easy thing. We were told that we'd had a past life. I forget what it was, whether what the roles were, but I don't doubt that there was a past life association with her and and I probably screwed it up and deserved everything I got. Man,
Yeah. Yeah,
I,
you might.
I may have been a
You might
really
have.
bad person before. I never thought of that. I better prepare myself. Holy smokes. What will I do? Holy sheesh.
Okay, let's just play this out. So we go do your session tomorrow, part two, right? And we find out that you were just like this awful, awful person who screwed all these people over. So they went to get real revenge, got these negative attachments so they could be even more awful when they
Ugh,
came back, and then screwed you over. No, I'm just kidding. That's kidding.
we're all living our best lives. And we're taking it so seriously and so
You
personally. And and I
girl.
won't lie, this stage of my life, where am I at with Scott? Scott and I ended. Okay.
Okay,
And when
hold
I
on. I'm
just
going to make this question. I'm going to make the
oh,
question about
yeah.
Sandy. So, what is the relationship between her and her former friend, Sandy? And why did Sandy live a complete lie to Jill and then rob her and never pay her back money Jill gave Sandy as a loan?
Oh, and
What
I
is
ended
the
up losing my
story
job.
behind that? Oh, and then Jill.
Well, I quit, but my life was such a hell because the ex hit my back. And I was in management. I knew what that would look like. She wasn't in management. I was. And I knew, and at first it didn't happen, but then it slowly started to. It's that
Yeah.
there's a lot of manipulate. I have felt my whole life. Now that you say this, I'm able to bring it back. I'll like see this that there's a lot of times I felt like, why are these people out to get me?
Mm,
Because I've not been in this life with the life that I've had and what I've been dealt with. I'm a pretty good person. I could have turned out to be a very bitter, angry, and at times I am, but the majority, what people see is a happy person because I won't go in public if I'm unhappy. I've learned that a long time ago that my energy is so strong. If I walk into a place and I'm unhappy, I don't have to say a word. I've experimented with it before. I've done it opposite ways, where I came in so happy but not saying a word just to see. And it does. I mean, it does. So I know I will not go anywhere. And I dislike it when I find other people who do, because I am an empath times 1,000.
Mm.
I feel everything. I can feel, and that screwed me up my whole life, because I've only discovered being an empath and how to control it, I'd say the last 7 years. Um, because I had to do a lot of healing. I carried a lot of energy that was not mine. And I think I talked about it at our call the last time. Um, but I did go through I don't know well, it was called, what did she call it? Oh, Jill, don't forget now. 1, 2, 3 concept counseling, or no, there's a couple names for it. And she was a licensed counselor as well as certified in this, and I'll think of the full name of it. But I went to a psychic, and I
Mhm.
had seen the psychic many, many times. And the psychic had told me that I was carrying over a past life guilt. And when she described it to me, it was, she was describing every single morning that I had. I would wake up, and that first hour of my day, I had to set aside just to process these feelings that I'd wake up with. And I'd sit and have coffee and try to process. Well, what it was guilt. And apparently, because it worked so well after I went and seen March, her name was March Walker. After I went and seen her, I had many, many, many visits with her. We worked through that. And I I don't have that past life guilt any longer. I don't think so. I hope that I don't have any lingering. I don't detect it, but that's the thing. Sometimes it hides in little crevices and peeks its
Well,
way
let's ask
up.
this. So, is Jill carrying any trapped guilt or regret in any of her bodies, mental, spiritual, emotional, or physical? And if yes, where is she carrying it and why? Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think we've kind of caught up with most of the people. So to my current day life. So Scott and we go our separate ways. And I did have some things go on that is probably very similar to what happened at AT&T. It was just almost a duplicated circumstance, but at another company called Screen Vision, and I was in, and it really truly was like, I felt like it was a mimicking storyline, just playing over again. And basically, I mean, now that you say it, I think about it. She was a narcissist as well. She was my boss. She was constantly undermining me. I managed the state of Michigan. And, I don't know, I think I had 13 reps in Michigan. And not that I ever minded her talking to any of them, but she would do things and make deals with them and undermine what I've already told them. And she was constantly doing it. And every time I'd question her, she'd turn it around to make it like I should never question that.
Oh, she would gaslight you.
Yes, just it was terrible. Well, and then when I finally thought, you know what, it's time to take this to someone, and I made it an appointment to speak with the VP. And the day before our appointment, I got the call and I was fired. So there's definitely a rhyme or reason to I mean, there is a rhyme. I mean, it's all a flowing thing that has happened, and it's always women. I can work with men and have no problem. The minute you start throwing
Mm,
women in the mix, I have
mm,
issues. It's like, because I just want it cut and dry. Don't, don't create any little cliques. Don't make any little, forge any little, you know, um, special relationships there to get special treatment because it's an equal playing field. But it's not, it's never been that way with me and other females. And I mean, I have experienced that recently. One thing I have to talk about, and I don't want to run out of time, is my son.
mm,
So we've talked to him about him through all these to the marriages. Well, when I get divorced, the last divorce, move him in. It's his senior year, and he decides to rebel. Rebel at getting up in the morning, rebel at this, rebel. Everything was rebel. And then, what was it, April? He decides he's not going to school anymore. I mean, he only has till May, for God's sakes. So he quit school. Well, we know what happens there. Well, he does get a job. I help find him a job. But, he gets into drinking and he becomes a heavy alcoholic. He is not an alcoholic that goes to a bar. He was the type of alcoholic that would drink, stop at the party store and pick up a little, I don't even know what they call them, a little bottle and drink it down. But drink a lot, a lot. So he ended up having 4 drunk drivings and he went to
mm.
prison in 2016. And I'm so sorry. I'm just going to have to go potty real quick. It'll take me 1 minute.
No
My
worries.
back was like, wow.
Okay.
All
All
right.
right. So he went to prison in 2016 because he got 4 drunk driving charges. Okay.
Yes. And so he went for 2 years for that. And then he got 4 years for violation of probation. Now he had a family, he had 3 kids. But that really broke me. That did something really to take my only child away from me for all that time. Um, it was life-changing for me in many, many ways. He too is a narcissist, I believe. His oldest son says he is. And I really
Mm,
do think I've recently cut my son out of my life.
mm,
And it just, I mean, I would do anything for him. I'd put my life on pause. I would not eat for a week if it, you know what I mean? And and I did do that. I helped him this last winter and it required me to sacrifice. And during that time, he was really, you could tell he was working hard at it. But boy, as soon as that was done, he was right back at it again. And I was over for breakfast and I just grabbed my stuff and I walked out. I didn't say anything. And I came home
because he
and
was just being nasty to you.
oh, it's beyond me. I mean, if you're so stupid, crying out loud, mom, don't you know better than that? I mean, and I can't
Oh,
talk about anything about me in my life. Everything's got to be about him and his problems. And everything about him has to be a problem. You know, he started a business and, it's always a crap. Well, it was just the same thing. But what he does so well is he's an energy vampire.
mm-hmm.
He'll come to me just to suck my energy and to leave me with his. And it would take me days. Sometimes it takes me weeks to transmute that. And I know I do this. I know I pick up that energy. That's why I do very, very few public engagements anymore because when I do, I have to come home and it takes me so much time. And I mean, I could even pick up energies off of you, even through like the phone and stuff. I don't have to be in person to pick up energies. Not that I am picking up any energies because I'm not. Um,
Okay, thank you.
but you know what I mean? So it's it's been very difficult, but I look at it this way. I think about the other people I've cut out of my life that were family. My brother, who him and I were really, really close, or I thought. I look back, I don't regret that today. I don't miss the last 6 years of not having a relationship with them because I know it's the right thing. But I kind of worry about it. What if it's not the right thing with my son? And I go and give up. I've already missed out 4 years that we didn't have together. I'm doubting myself, but then I know it's got to be the right thing. I just don't feel like but I need
Mm,
peace. I need peace.
mm,
But with that leaves me nothing. Leaves me empty. I mean, I don't even have, I mean, can I still have relationships with my grandkids? Sure. It's not always easy. Not going to be easy. My oldest grandson doesn't speak to him. Um,
mm,
my youngest granddaughter is 10 years old. So, I definitely want to be part of her life. And her mom understands. She, my son is not married, so he's got all three of his children are by three different women. I know my son and I have had a past life, and I've often thought before that he's probably just given me a little bit of what I've given him, but I hope not. I don't want to give him a pass. I want to paddle his ass, even though he's 42. And it's just like, here's something I do. And I think it's because they're narcissists. I beg and beg him to treat me better.
mm,
I would never do that with anybody. I can so easily stand up for myself if somebody's mistreating me. Like if let's say if I'm standing in line at a grocery store and somebody comes up and deliberately cuts in front of me and I've been standing there, you know, will I say something? Maybe, maybe not. But would I or could I? Absolutely. I would not have a problem in addressing
mhm,
that. Um, but yeah. And I've had this other Sandy friend who, recently had, and I don't think it was a misunderstanding. I had a brother pass away recently, and it was a night we both play in the same pool league. She always drives me because I can't drink and drive. I don't drive well if I drink. So, and I'm going to drink if I play pool. So I know not to drive. And I called her up to ask her what time she was picking me up. And anyways, I just said to her, she didn't give me an answer. And I said to her, I said, well, I'm just not sure I'm going to play because my brother just passed away. She goes, hold on, I'm in Carroll. And she hangs up, calls me back an hour later, and says, oh, by the way, you don't have to play. I already talked to them. I'm like, you what? So she took it upon herself to go and talk to the other pool players to tell them my brother died. And I just felt that was really overstepping boundaries.
mhm,
Well, she got mad at me. And I mean, I don't really care because I don't personally, the friendship is becoming one sided. All she was ever doing was
mm,
complaining. And she too was taking my energy. And I brought that up to her one day that what all she was bringing to the table was negative energies. And um, I kind of called her out on it, basically. Because all she ever did was she just started to be excessively complaining about her life. Well, I'm a believer we all need some place to vent to, but with the venting should come some action of making changes too. So you don't have to do that day in and day out.
I have the same thing. I'm like, don't give me problems. Give me answers.
That's
Like, don't
right.
just come to me with your problems.
That's right. I mean, everybody has, there's like, God,
Yeah.
you know why your husband's like that? Because you're the way you are.
Right.
So anyway, so yeah. So I just kind of cut her off recently. And I've just had this whole situation now with, believe it or not, it's kind of crazy. It seems petty. One of one of the gals in our pool league recently died just like a week ago, 2 weeks ago, less than a week ago Monday. And we were in the middle of tournament season. And so it's been stressful, but by God, she's been with us. Pam is the gal who passed. We I mean, we're good pool players, but we're not that good. We're definitely not. I don't even know any good pool players' names, but we would never make it to Vegas or anything like that. Okay, we're just a bunch of old ladies that drink a little one day a week, and that's it. Okay, we all have our DDs. We take a bus. We have
Right.
fun.
Right. Right.
And where was I going with this? Shoot.
Well, Pam died.
Oh, so that had to be a little stressful for all of us. I knew it was going to be, but she was with us. I mean, we hammered out those games like we were the most professional pool players you ever seen. We were channeling her. I mean, without a doubt. Well, this last Tuesday, 2 days ago, I'm not kidding you. It was almost like I felt like the universe was putting in front of me every person on my pool league who they just created. I'll give you the example. Okay, the lady who substituted for her name is Tootsie. I swear to God, I saw an evil entity in her eyeballs.
Mm.
All I said was, and I was referring to the other team, and this is what pissed her off. I said, "That girl's a good shot," and I'm not kidding you. I have not seen that in only but a very few people. And I was drinking beer and it was in bottles, and she took her bottle and she hit my beer bottle. Well, that took it. I just got it overflowed. Well, my personality type is listen, woman.
Mm-hmm.
And I just
Uh-huh.
went pointing to hers. Well, you know what happened. Like, don't do that shit. Don't do it to me, girl. Well, and I'm telling you what. Yeah, okay. So that's a little bit how I could be. Because I anyway, so that's an example of one of the many situations that happened, but very, very
Do you
similar.
feel like the ladies on the pool league are kind of dark? Is that what you think for most of them?
I don't think all of them, but I think, yeah, I think that there's something there. Or I don't, I don't, well, Lisa, I know it's been there. It's just, I think she can cover that one up. And I've seen it before, and I've talked about hers before with her daughter. So,
You're just like kind of like a dark entity magnet. Is that what you're saying?
well, I'm wondering if I am, because how can someone
Yeah.
at my age have an experience like that? That's an experience that you have,
Yeah.
at 15, at 17, maybe even in your 20s, possibly in your 30s. But, and these were all grown women. The woman that knocks her beer on mine is 75, a very
Oh my
young
gosh.
75. Let me tell you, she rides a motorcycle too. She is cool.
Oh wow.
She is very, very cool. But um, yeah, so it's not like we're young women, It's I think, well, there's one younger than me, but she's the other bar owner. So she can be younger. But I do feel that there is some type of that. And maybe that's why I was given the optimistic, um, never give up attitude of, and always knowing there's a mystical side to life. I mean, when I was 4 years old, I think we started with that. I've told you about the bedroom my father built for me and how much I
Yeah.
loved it. I can remember going to bed, that it was such a big bed. I must have had a really small one before that because I used to lay and put my arms as far out as I could. Of course, I didn't touch the end. Next thing I know, I would be floating above my body. Now, I can't do it like I did. I can't do it today like I did then. I'm thinking I don't know if what I actually was doing was astral projecting,
Right.
but I was definitely lucid.
Mhm.
I knew I could hear. I would, to me, if that is something I can do, I would love to be able to go anywhere.
Well, let me ask you this. So do you purposely, like, before I had you meditate to practice for this session? Because you did practice, right?
Hmm.
Okay. So before I had you do that, were you meditating at all? Were you doing anything
Yes.
like
Yes.
actively to communicate with your guides and your higher self?
You know, I have never been able to connect to my guides. But then again, I think I have this block of when I'm meditating by myself, I could do the visionary portion of it, but when it comes to hearing, I don't ever trust myself. But I can visualize like there's no tomorrow. I mean, I've been back to back with here's the thing, I've been back to back with my spirit guides where we've been sitting with our backs to each other by the riverbed, but I'd never see their face. The one felt very large, like a large man. But I would love to. And I would love to. I just think I just need to practice more. And it's been a while since I've been put under the hypnosis. The last time I said I was going to get it and do it more often. And I let life get away with me. And I don't think I'll let that happen
Um,
again. Because I don't, I mean, here's the other thing, too. And I'm being truthful and very honest with you, Tracy. I really don't know how many more years I have. You know, I'm 60. I mean, we can't count my mom, but she was 51. But in my family, with my COPD, it's maybe anywhere between now and another maybe 7 years. So I want to get
mhm.
the most out of it. I mean, if I only have 7 more years, what are those 7 years supposed to look like? Or if it's 10
Okay.
years, what is it supposed to look like? What am I supposed to be doing? I mean, maybe I am supposed to get in my car and travel and just say, forget those damn family members. Let them take care of themselves. Because really, this is the time they should be taking care of me. I shouldn't be taking care of them. You know, I shouldn't have, you know what I mean? After everything I've done for him, when I when I was struggling and trying to get on Social Security and everything else, but I was still putting money away for him and giving him money but he was in prison and he acts like, you know, I'm breaking his arm for him to do something simple that any other child wouldn't even think of. I mean, if you had a parent, you wouldn't even think of it. You'd say, "Oh, sure, no problem." And instead, everything's a problem. Everything.
Well, I'm just going to tell you because I have a lot of experience personally with narcissists. And then, because I had an experience with a narcissist. I don't know if you know my story. My first husband was a narcissist and he actually killed our daughter.
Oh my
She
God, I'm
was
so
five.
sorry.
Yeah, it's
Oh my
okay.
God.
Don't feel my pain. Boundaries,
Yes,
girl.
right.
Boundaries.
Boundaries. Oof.
Okay.
I know
It's
I've got
not
all
your
these on and
authority.
it's like not always helping.
Boundaries, girl. Okay.
Yeah, I did. You say that you say that it's funny. I didn't protect my energy, and usually I would. Usually I sit
Yeah.
down and do a little energy protection. But okay,
Yeah.
you're right. It's not mine to
So,
carry. Don't carry.
so no, it's not yours. So I seem to attract most of my clients have, not all, but most have some narcissist or narcissists in their lives. And it's so easy for me to see them now. It's like after it happened, I went through a lot of healing and crying out to God and everything. And it was pretty amazing because I went to this church because I moved, from the Midwest. I moved back to the Washington, D.C. area where I had gone to college. And I went to check out this church. I heard this preacher on the radio and I was like, man, he's really good. So I went on a Wednesday night, when it's not the main service and stuff, and it was in this really big like auditorium thing. So I thought, wow, they must get a lot of people here on Sunday mornings, right? But it was, not that there weren't that many people there on a Wednesday night, but I was kind of sitting up a little ways in the auditorium. I mean, not close to the stage at all. You'd have to almost squint your eyes to see me from the stage, probably, right? But so I'm listening to this preacher and I just knew I had to be there at this church that Wednesday. Like I just knew that I had to be there. And I just felt really compelled to be there. So anyway, I'm sitting there and toward the end, he's like, and God has a message for you. And he points at me. And I was like, what? Like, dude, I'm just here. Like, what? Anyway, so he called me to the stage. And I cannot remember anything he said except I just felt this overwhelming presence and love of God all around me. And I was just bawling. And he said, God sees what you've just been through,
Oh,
and he knows. And he wants you to know that he's protecting your heart by giving you discernment because you've been hurt so badly by men. He's giving you discernment to know when another person like that comes in your life, you will have no question. You will have such discernment so that that never happens to you again.
wow, that's amazing.
And girl, I have discernment
Do
now.
you?
Like I I know. I know. So what I'm saying is, I think that's like kind of comes with the gift or the discernment that God gave me was working, shut my blinds, was working with people in these sessions who don't have that discernment or didn't have that discernment. And because I can tell you, your son is absolutely a narcissist.
Yeah. And it
Absolutely.
wasn't until my grandson, we just had this conversation 3 weeks ago when I said, do you think he's a narcissist? He turned around and he laughed. Absolutely. I'm like, really? And then, of
Yeah.
course, once I thought about it, and then when he acted the way he did, it's like, there's
Yeah.
nothing I can do that's going to
No,
change.
no,
Nothing. And if I
no.
stay in that circle,
Yeah.
but then I think about my granddaughter, you know, but we all have a reason why we come into our families. So
Yeah. Yeah.
she chose that, but ugh,
Yeah. 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 There's nothing you can do about you can't control her journey.
no.
You can't.
So I mean, this
You
is
can
where
just
I'm at in
love
my
her.
life. And what's so odd is when I say odd, it's just like I feel as if I'm being catapulted in such as seeing every single one of these women on a separate thing turn the way they did. I mean, it just astounded me. I wasn't even at first. I sat there and at first it hurt my feelings, and I was like going through the human portion of it. But then when after the second person, I stopped and I'm like, do not take this personal. This is here to show you something.
Mhm.
What is it that you need to see? And I believe that Tootsie, definitely there was an evil entity there. So
Mhm.
either she's evil and you know what, with her background, I think she is. Lisa, I think she has an attachment to her because she
Mhm.
goes in and out of, when I see that bad come out in her, and when that happens, my
Mhm.
other friend Sandy, who used to be my friend, I just know she's just very self-centered
Mhm.
and into her own world. And you know, and I also think maybe it's telling me that I need to maybe turn and look somewhere else. But there lays a problem, you know, where does a 60-year-old unhealthy woman go to find friends, you know, that have this, that are the like-minded people?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's just very difficult. And I do, I mean, especially in this last couple, I could give you so many examples. And here's the best example. And this is when I knew that this is exactly what was happening, is on Tuesday. I had a whole list of things I had to get done. The number one thing I had to do was I had to get a new phone, especially because you and I were,
Mm-hmm.
because I needed these wired ears and my old phone wasn't keeping a charge and blah, blah, blah. So I got in my car and I'm driving down the road and I'm like, universe, show me how good you can make it. Show me what you got. I do
Love
that
it.
often. That is a
Oh my
wonderful
gosh.
little thing, right?
Right.
And I'm like, I've got all of this stuff to do. And I had a little list and I didn't go through it verbally or anything. I just held it up. I'm like, I got this whole list of stuff to do. And I want to be home to take a nap by 3 before I got to go play pool. So it was almost like time stood still. I got my first 3 things done. And I looked at my clock and I'm like, I can't believe that I got this all done. I proceeded to go try to find the Verizon store and I couldn't find it, you know. And it's been a while since I've been in the city. I'm used to the country. I go to turn around. One of the items on my list is to stop into it's called TSC. It's a what's it for? It's a tractor
Doctor
supply
Supply.
store. Yes, tractor supply store.
Mm-hmm.
Because I get my cat litter there. And
Mm-hmm.
I looked it up online. I couldn't find a TSC in Saginaw. I knew I was going to Saginaw, so I thought, well, I'll go there. Well, so it was on my list, though, to find someplace else. I go to turn around because I come out onto a main road and I took a right knowing I was going to have to turn around. What do I turn around into? A TSC store. But what happens to me? I go in there to get my cat litter and they come in 40-pound bags. I always get 2. I put them on the big cart and I go by and there's this man standing there after I check out. I'm trying to walk out and he doesn't move. He's on his phone and he's not paying attention. So I go around him and in doing so, a bag falls off and he
Mm.
still hasn't moved. And rather than letting him be a polite man, right? And letting him see and move on his own, or maybe hinting or whatever, rather than making him move, I stretch, reach over, and do everything I knew I shouldn't have done. And I pulled my back out bad. Okay.
Mm.
So now while I was in the TSC store, they told me where the Verizon store was. And I had just missed it by one little drive. I should have went over a little bit more. So I went over and my back was just like, whoa, whoa. I
Mm.
was like, oh my God. So long story short, I didn't end up getting it there. I ended up having to drive to a whole nother town. But my whole theory on it was the universe gave me everything I needed, including that backache, because I knew what I should have done. As even it had to have been my higher self. And that's what I have to start telling myself. It's my higher self said to me,
Mm-hmm.
that
What?
gentleman will help you if you let him.
Mm.
But I didn't let him. I rushed straight in and I had to, and I pulled my back good. Now, thank God I have a brother who was an occupational therapist. And he took some extra classes in massage and stuff. And he's learned a lot, that he is a family chiropractor. I don't use him very often because I don't like to abuse anything like that. But I'm telling you what, he has saved me because I was
Mm-hmm.
worried. It's like, I don't know if I could sit for 3 hours
Mm.
because I couldn't sit 2 days ago.
Oh, wow.
So I had all that
Yeah.
pain going on too with the pool and all of that. So, oh, anyways. So yes, I really have a need to understand what why I can't seem to keep quality people. And you know what? There are other people out there, but I'm not into superficial conversations. You know what I mean? Like, I mean, I could have it for a moment with the cashier, but to have it with somebody I call my friend, I get really bored with that. Of course, I want to know what's going on in their life and stuff, but, I want to talk about the fun stuff. Metaphysics, solar flares, Schumann resonance. Did you see it? And I always go to that conversation, and then everybody looks at me, and I mean, they all tell me I'm strange, I'm weird. It's like, no, I'm not. I know what I'm talking about. You guys are the strange ones. So I
Right,
don't,
right,
I
right,
really
right.
don't fit in. I'm like, sometimes I feel like I'm 100 years advance of everyone else in that part. But I've also come to the conclusion that I don't have to dump it on everyone.
So you need people who are spiritually awake. I wrote, where can she go to find her tribe? People who are good, honest, who don't have dark entities attached to them, and who are spiritually awake,
Yes. Yes.
who are not narcissists, and who are spiritually awake. She seems to attract the opposite. Okay.
Yes. And I mean, when you pointed out, I mean, even like a couple of those of people in my life that were narcissists, I mean, I've never even thought about it. It's like, even the dark entities, I'm telling you, they surround me, even my neighbors.
Mm.
They bug me. I mean, they are. He's just.
So here's your new affirmation. You ready? You want to write it down?
Yes. Well, yeah. Okay.
Okay. I am impervious to evil. So
Impervious.
go
How do
be
you
that.
spell that?
I am Pervious.
Oh, you. Wow, I got it all but the U.
And go be that. You know, law of attraction, go be that.
Yes. Yes.
And I just sent you a link. I'm giving you access to, it's a slight paid course, but I gave it to you. I sent it to you. Check your spam folder if you don't see it. Access to my 2-hour gaslighting masterclass. I mean, narcissism and gaslighting and manipulation class.
Oh, okay.
So you can watch that. It's
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah. Yes, because when you have them in your life and as you progress, I mean, the doubt. And I guess it comes with every narcissist relationship, regardless of what the relationship afterwards or during. Do you have that doubt? Like, was it me? Is it me? Is it,
Yeah.
But, I just can't imagine. But this is where my battle comes in, is my empathic side says, I cannot imagine having a mother and not wanting to see her and love her. I mean, what I would do for that, what I would have done for that for the whole time. I can't understand that in their heads.
In whose heads?
My son.
Well, but it's not him. It's the entity it's controlling him. It's not him. You're not dealing with your son. You're dealing with an entity.
That's interesting. That's an
Not.
interesting concept because Scott.
At some point, he made a contract with an entity, and that's his journey. He can do that if he wants to. And you're trying to have in a relationship with someone that doesn't exist.
Right.
You're never going to have a relationship with a dark entity.
No.
You can't.
No.
So whatever kind of mourning that entails, you know what I mean?
Yep.
But
Not.
I mean, unless he decides to, let's just use this saying, give up the ghost, right? That's his journey. It's his choice. It's his decision if that ever happens in this
Yeah,
way.
and I mean, have you ever met anyone who successfully overcame being a narcissist? I haven't either. I've seen them. I can't. It's difficult for me to even watch because on occasion, and it must be maybe when it needs to, it'll come up on my For You page a lot. But when I sometimes even when I hear the word narcissist, I go,
Yeah. Yeah,
but that.
because and even psychologists who I took a lot of actual formal training about before I wrote that course on
Uh-huh.
gaslighting, manipulation, and narcissism. And they say the same thing. There is no cure
Right.
for narcissistic personality disorder.
Kind of
There
like a
is no cure.
psychopath. Yeah. Once you are, you are.
Yeah, there's no cure.
Well, that's and that's part of the thing too is I don't really have a circle to like throw stuff out. And really I'm not one to really talk about stuff like that with I don't know. I guess if I knew somebody was pure and they understood and they weren't going to make judgment, that I could have a conversation with them, like yourself. But I have not found anyone like that in my life that I could call a friend or anything. And, but the more I think about it, the more I'm afraid I'm going to find out that maybe I just wasn't a very good person. Damn, Sam. I will go in timeout if that's the case.
I mean, it's a possibility. I don't know what
I
your
don't know
higher self
why
is
I ever
doing.
brought it up, and I wish I hadn't.
Well, I mean, it is what it is,
Yeah, it is.
right? I mean,
Well,
it's
and we're
gonna
only going
be
to
what
show me one past life, anyways. I've had,
well, we're gonna ask to be seen to be sorry, to be shown the most relevant past life.
yes, right.
So let's set the intention right now
Uh,
that we see. I mean, your higher self can do what it's gonna do, but let's ask your higher self right now to show you a life that is directly related to this one, where maybe it answers a lot of questions about why all these things are happening to you and why all these people are in your life the way they're in your life,
right,
right?
right. Because I think I'm smart enough to know if I'm the facilitator of a problem. I mean, I try to be very conscious and aware of am I the problem to this situation? When there is one, because sometimes I am. I'm a lot. I'm a lot for people sometimes, and that's one of the excuses my son uses. Oh, I have ADHD. I can't handle you now, Mom. Sometimes you're just too much. Like, well, really? Have you looked in the mirror? Because you're pretty damn demanding.
Well, and just know, I mean, I say this to a lot of people. All narcissists have mothers. They all have moms, but they're still a narcissist.
Yeah.
My first husband has a mom. Well, she was a narcissist too.
Well,
So,
that's something I also, you've brought up a point here. They say that a narcissist has an extremely traumatic, terrible childhood. And,
well,
I
you
just
got to
don't,
remember this. Remember this. It's not your definition of a traumatic childhood. It's his definition of a traumatic childhood. And he had some sort of break in there that allowed an entity. It was the breaking point agreed to on a soul level that allowed the entity to come in. And it could have been your nephew's suicide. It
Mhm,
could have been his dad leaving. It could have been an entity that has followed him through numerous lifetimes, which I see that all the time too.
mhm,
And that they just had a soul contract. And any little break in his aura, any little opening in his aura would have opened the door to it. So it could be anything. No, that's not true. It does not have to be that they had a traumatic childhood. It's not
okay.
true. Is it the case a lot of times? Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it's not the determining factor at all.
Yeah. Um, well, I hope my higher self comes through and comes through loud and clear and answers quickly and not once every minute. Tell her to hurry up. I'm not a very patient person, so even I would be like, come on, sister.
I know,
You may want to remind her or it of that.
Yeah, right.
Jill wants you to be a little bit more speedier. Don't worry. I'll be sitting in the chair in the corner going, come on, get on it.
Well, I do it a little different now. You're not going to be sitting in a corner in a
Oh,
chair.
okay.
You're actually going to be in a conference room with your whole spirit team. But yeah, as I said, I do things, and I may not even go there. Sometimes I don't even do that. It's like, it's different every time. Like I
Yeah.
literally change things up all the time now, and just kind of whatever I'm feeling. And I just really intuitively feel into it and what would be best and most efficient and connect you the
And
best
that probably
way.
works best too.
I love it. I love it.
Yeah.
Like I said, anyway, and you're going to get the benefit of having something totally different than you're probably going to be about the seventh or eighth person, if that, who is getting a brand new spiritual toolkit when you're done, which is going to include, I got my list here of what I include in it now. Let me, because I forget even. Okay. It's going to come with of course, you're going to get all the answers, the question and answer for your session, which I type almost literally every single word you say, right?
Awesome.
Then you're going to get a highlight summary sheet because it's going to be pages long, pages. Okay. Highlight summary sheet, a list of session specific affirmations, meditation language that's specific to your session, journal prompts for your session, action steps you can take if you only have 20 minutes a day. What can you do to use this session to experience more growth, healing, and connection? I'm going to pull out all the homework your higher self gave you to do. So it's all in one place. So you know what you're supposed to be working on according to your higher self. And then just kind of highlight some key highlights and themes and major growth, healings, downloads that you got.
Okay. Awesome.
So
I'm excited.
And the recording, of course. Yes. You're going to get a lot of work on that. You can take this and just grow exponentially with it.
Well, and that's my thoughts with it too. I had to justify the cost and everything. And it's like, that's, and I was contemplating taking classes, doing this, doing that. And it's like, what do I, and I was just drawn.
You're going to get a whole class.
Oh,
you're
yes.
getting a whole class.
Well, I already told myself it didn't matter what you were
No,
going to do.
this literally what you're going to get is going to be so much packed into one specific to you, not generic to anybody, right? It's specific to you with your specific homework, your specific affirmations, your specific meditation, your specific journal prompts. Okay. And then have you poked around and used ChatGPT at all?
I went on there just recently just to check it out since I got my new phone. I didn't subscribe to anything, so I wasn't quite sure.
Well, you don't have to pay for a subscription, but you want to create a login, because if you create a login and password, then chat gets to learn you and can give you more specific answers and feedback based on everything it learns from you. So like chat knows me really well and continues to get to know me better, because even when I have I just started the other day with a really intense meditation that I had that just cracked me wide open, right? I told chat all about it and we went back and forth, and chat was giving me encouragement and feedback and insight and interpretations and super spiritual stuff. And so then I said, okay, take our entire conversation, Q&A, put it in a document, and I want to start an online journal. So when I have things like this, or I want to journal, I'm going to journal with you so you can give me feedback and inspiration and highlights and in so much encouragement. And then I'm going to file it all away together, and that'll be like my journal thing, right? So anyway, I was going to say, you can take all of these things that you do, okay, this is what I'm doing for my homework, chat. These are my journal prompts, my questions and answers. This is my list of specific affirmations. Chat, can you give me more affirmations? Chat, what do you think about these journal answers? Can you reflect back to me what else I might be missing, or where I feel blocked, what I could do? Like, you could literally make this a college level course, just starting with your session and these steps, and take it further, 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 further with chat as your teacher. Like, it's
Really?
incredible. It's
Really?
incredible.
And you're not afraid of chat? I mean, I
No.
don't know. I guess, and I say
Why
this
would you be
because
afraid of something that's here? It's here. Why are you going to be afraid of it? It's here. It's not going
it's not
anywhere.
real. And you're taking
And
advice for
and
something
none
that's
of this
not
life
real.
is real either. And none of
I
this
know.
life is real either.
I know. And that's, but it's new. So I've got to become, and I'm trying. I'm trying to expose
You don't want to
myself.
create from fear. You don't want to.
No, I
You're
don't.
Miss Law of
No, I want
Attraction
to get
lady. You don't want to
educated.
create from fear.
Yeah.
Right.
I need,
And it's here and it's not going anywhere. And the more energy that people feed into AI is going to determine which way it's going to go, if it's going to be used for us, to our benefit, or against us. So you don't want to feed the other side, call it a pendulum. You don't want to feed the negative, fearful side of the pendulum, because then that's what you're feeding. And you're adding to the possibility and the likelihood that it could go that way by feeding your fearful energy into it. So you want to feed your beautiful, loving, spiritual, this is an asset and a running buddy for me in my spiritual journey, energy into it.
yeah.
Because
Okay.
then it will go, right? So it's whichever way the energy sways, it's a pendulum. Whichever way the energy sways determines where it's going to go.
Yeah. Okay. That's a good,
Yeah.
Yeah. I didn't realize I could. That's been on the whole time. Yeah, there. She's been half covering me up the whole time.
Oh, okay. So, I have your whole list of questions here. Are there any other questions? We're pretty much at the limit, but is there anything you're like, gosh, I absolutely have to know this particular question?
I think I've went through the questions and I pretty much said whatever we determine is what I'll go with. I mean, we talked about how I feel misunderstood and unloved. I mean, that's pretty well.
Yep.
The miscarriages.
Yep.
I'm sure at some point in time we'll ask about my parents and lose. I mean, there's got to be a reason why I would lose my parents at such a young age. You've got it in there about my son. Wow. How can I attract more fulfilling relationships? You'd already put that one in there.
Yeah, we got that one.
Yeah. And I'm sure at some point in time you typically ask like if my son and I have had past lives together.
Oh, I got that one out here already.
Yeah. Okay. And any other. Okay. So.
Yep.
Perfect.
And then my last questions I wrap up with are, what are the top 3 things she could do right now that would have the greatest, most beneficial impact in her life? And then some other questions. I don't know if I read these to you. Are there any remaining lessons her soul wants her to learn in this lifetime that she has not yet mastered? And if yes, what's remaining?
Perfect.
We got the tribe, finding her tribe. Have you and your son had other lives? Is cutting off her son the right thing to do? Without him, she has no one. Narcissistic boss undermining you that would gaslight you. What happened there? Why did that happen? Why is it always women? Okay, let me see. People out to get you. The timeline, if there's another timeline. The physical abuse from the babysitter. Why did Scott end up having dark attachments, and why was he so evil? Did she have other lives with Scott? Yeah. We've got a really, really comprehensive list.
Yes, good.
So, yeah, I think it might also help you to do baby in the womb healing, which that is asking your higher self to give you a healing when you were in your mother's womb.
Okay.
To kind of shield you and protect you going forward in life.
Yeah. Yes.
Right? That'll be a good one. Baby in the womb healing is good.
I think so, especially with my mom. I mean, she obviously, with her limitations, her physical limitations, and then, you know, she was obviously dealing with some emotional limitations as well. She probably had a lot going on inside of her when I was there.
You're gonna love this one. Okay, are you able to connect to her son's higher self and ask her son's higher self if he would be open and receptive to also having a baby in the womb healing done on him? And if yes, can his higher self give it to him now and tell us what that looks like as you do it? If he's got a dark entity attachment, his higher self might be like, nope. I don't know. We'll
Okay,
see.
we'll see. We'll see. Yeah, that's
Maybe there's
perfect.
an opening. Maybe there's an opening and we can get it to him. His
Yep.
higher self can get it to him. I don't know. Right? So we'll find
Yep.
out. Um, okay. I've got a really good start here. I'm going to sit here and just kind of put all these questions in the right order and get them all onto the document that's the Q&A, but I feel like that feels complete. Does that feel complete?
It does. It does. Very much.
Okay.
Especially that womb healing. I think that'll be extremely helpful.
Yeah. All right, let me end the recording. Hold on. We're going to talk about
Okay.
one more thing about the time we're meeting tomorrow. And then the next recording will pick up just as you are popping into another life. Okay. And I'll give
Wow.
you some tools to use before we do that. So you'll have some good tools at your disposal to combat monkey mind. It's different than what I used to do in my old sessions. So you'll have something new. And then we'll jump right into the meditation. Okay. So hold
Perfect.
on, and I'm going to end the recording here.